The dysregulation is extreme. The difficulty for us has been, it's been extreme. I wrote a letter to Dr. Moreno and carbon copy Dr. Porras about 3 weeks ago regarding the California waiver, and requested that our school board consider a waiver to the state. That is Education Code Section 56101. That states that the IDEA has not been made null and void, and children who are not able to access their education through distance learning can receive a waiver to receive education at school. Given the fact that there are 5 children total to the class, this would be the ideal opportunity to get some of those children. Not all of those children can go back because they are medically fragile. Probably 3 of those children would benefit from being in class. Such that their goals would not be lost. So I do realize that that might be difficult, not impossible, but difficult. So I would request that if we are not able to request a waiver, if that is not something that you would consider for the most fragile families that you have been caring for a long time, that we get some assistance with an aid, because when we work all day long, as I do, as a first responder, and my husband also is a teacher, he is not able to, we are not able to access the digital learning. And also you all have done such a good job. My son does not respond to the computer. That is one of the main goals of teaching kids with autism, is to ignore the screen. So my son ignores the screen. And so during our emergency IEP, it was met with consensus that he is not accessing his education. So I do ask that you consider some of these families as high risk. I know there are plenty of those families out there. I'm just speaking specifically to the IDEA and our family and our classroom in particular, as a class that I think should go back. And I would be willing to support that in any way possible.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, Jung Kim. Are you, looks like you're on. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. And I was just wondering, I had trouble going on, so I just wanted to request respectfully that the Zoom be taken out of the agenda and just posted on the website itself for the board, so that it's more clear, especially for new parents. And also, thank you, Director Silva, for announcing the meetings. I was just wondering when the Wednesday meeting was going to be, because you had mentioned 6 o'clock on, I think it was Tuesday, September 8th, for the Parent Action Committee to review the attendance. If you don't mind mentioning when the Wednesday meeting would be, that would be great, and where and how.
I think Debbie's screen froze up there. If that's the case, Christy, are you able to speak?
What do you need, Ralph?
Why don't you, could you go ahead and proceed with the meeting until our president can get logged back on again? We were on public comment, and it looks like Elliot Hazen is the next parent.
Okay, I can't see who's coming next, but let's do it. Elliot, would you please speak?
Hi, yes. I just wanted to echo the point, particularly regarding teachers, how amazing they've been given the difficulties this year. I can't even imagine having to learn all these platforms while also teaching. But I just wanted to make a point publicly that there might be resources in the community, particularly tech-savvy parents, that might be able to help, particularly other parents or even some teachers with some of these technical difficulties. And just want to say it might be something, if I don't know if it's something the board can formally consider, but if there could be more of a public committee towards helping our great but small tech staff with these difficult times, it would be something I'd recommend.
Thank you for your comment.
Okay, and I think it looks like Mira Park is next.
Thank you, Ralph. I can't see.
No worry. Yeah, that problem. And give me a second here. I'm gonna. There you go. Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Mira Park. I'm the parent of a second grader and a middle schooler this year. And I really want to thank the board and all the teachers and all the staff and everyone that supported this transition. I know it's been incredibly hard pivoting like this and trying to get the technology and assignments and everything developed so quickly to deliver it to our kids. And I know that my teachers have been working incredibly hard to make sure all the assignments are there, checking in to make sure my kids are there, attending and completing things. But I do want to just make a few comments, and I will be participating a little bit more in the parent advisory meeting, but I do want to make a comment about 3 specific things that I've noticed myself and through comments from other parents and my daycare provider who is watching my son while I work full time. So the first thing is, I know we're all trying to keep it really simple, but the simpler we can make it, the easier it is. The more we have to go into different sort of websites and assignments, the difficult it is for people with different levels of technology to follow through with things. So you start getting a lot more disengagement, the more complicated it is. Second is the flexibility. I would really ask the board and whoever is responsible for communicating with the state and all of the state requirements for delivering this education to make sure that we have flexibility and the teachers have flexibility in being able to meet the needs of every single family. I know it's a big ask, but there are parents that cannot make it to the 8 to 3:30 timeframe for the twice a week material drop off, or middle of the school day meetings. And I don't want to put that burden on the teachers to try to fit into that little box to make sure they're making our kids, learn and, be engaged. I want them to have the flexibility to work with us so that we can do, the best that we can. Actually, I addressed 2 of those in my last comment. So I just wanted to, thank everyone and just put those comments out there because it's something that's been expressed by a lot of parents and child care providers that I'm interacting with on a daily basis.
I believe Wendy Giles.
I'll unmute Wendy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I thought I did.
Yep, just did.
There we go. Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. I have a couple of things. First, I really want to extend my sincere thanks to Dr. Porras, Barbara Martinez, Debbie, and parents and other community members who spoke last night about the cannabis dispensary. I really want to encourage everyone in our community to get on that next call, September 16th. As an active business person in the community, many of you know me, my family's been here for about 150 years. My experience in business here and seeing how these things go down with decisions that have probably been already made is very opaque. And I'm not very happy about it. And I don't like the way our children, our community are being portrayed. And I really, whatever your position is on cannabis, that's fine, but there's a lot of other things going on. So I just want to make sure everybody knows that that hasn't been lost on me. The numbers that were projected were not based on any comparable communities. So the money, the projected money, is it really worth the risk of around $200,000 a year? So Let's just think about that. The Mayor Peak, council members McAdams and Emilio really, I think, heard the community that spoke. And I want to point that out as it is an election year. Now, with all of that, I'd also like to say thank you so much to PG Middle School teachers and the staff, administration. I know how rough it's been, but I want to tell you that my daughter and her group of friends are really getting the hang of it. And I want to thank you so, so much for putting 1 trillion hours into this. It's not lost on our home and in my 8th graders world. And so I thank you very, very much, all of you, everyone in the district. Thank you so much. I see what it is and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next, we'll hear from Finn Thomas.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, as well as staff. This is actually Finn's dad, Steve. Just a point of information. I tried to log in through the link on the agenda, and I've been placed into Mr. Mejia's personal meeting room. And so Finn was logged on and watching the meeting for one of his classes, and I just want to say thank you to Ms. Costalis and leadership for having the kids be able to watch what and experience what all of our parents and their parents get to go through on a sometimes weekly or monthly basis. But I did just want to bring that point up because there may be other people that are trying to get on and view the meeting that aren't able to for whatever reason. I was redirected to another page. But the main reason I wanted to speak to you this evening is to echo the comments from several of the speakers previously. I also did watch the City Council meeting last night, and I always had thought that the City of Pacific Grove and the Pacific Grove Unified School District had the best interest of everyone that lives in the city. And unfortunately, last night I saw that that may not be true anymore. And while my position or the position of the city on the merits of cannabis, either pro or con, it doesn't matter, but what is being proposed is a dispensary located fairly close to Robert Down and fairly close to other youth serving businesses, as well as youth serving open areas. And so I do hope that not only the parents, but also staff and the board can weigh in at the meeting on September 16th, I think it is. This will be the second reading. And I do feel that not a lot of people knew that this was going to be going on last night. And whether intentional or not, it begs the question, why isn't our community being more involved with decisions like this that may only affect a small portion of the community directly, but has wider implications for our entire community, not just those that have retired here, but those that have chosen to raise their children here. So thank you very much for your time. And again, great work to all of the teachers, all of the staff, all of the board in making what is not a great situation as good as possibly can be made for all of our kids and the parents as well. Thank you guys very much.
Trustee Dawson, you're on mute. There you go.
I'm so sorry. Thank you for your comments. Jennifer Braden is next up, please.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I can. Please proceed.
Good evening. Dr. Barzet, all of the council members that are here, everybody that would be from our family encompassing community, that we all know that we're here during these crazy situations and COVID to actually look for the best for our youth, for our children, for our babies, and for what will ultimately be our future in this community. So on behalf of all of that, the floor to just talk about not only what Steve and Wendy, and if you were present at the meeting yesterday with the city council, is that honestly, we are trying to basically acknowledge that we would say as parents for our children that we accept this dispensary at our feet. And so I want to be able to tell my children that I, took a position and a stand. Not only that, but then talking about distance learning, I think that my only issue that I would like to present is that we are all on the same page as with transparency for making sure that their emotional state is represented too. So if they feel like they need an outlet or someone to confer with, that they're given that opportunity as well. I think my boys have both confided on me. I have one that just started middle school, hasn't met a single teacher in person other than through distance learning. And so this is all going to be new for them, encompassing all of these different guidelines and rules. And when we ultimately all gather back together, how they're going to be able to relate to that scenario with regard to how they will then integrate and be welcome and feel good about themselves and not feel that there's any kind of conflict with regards to how they're going to do that. I just want to make sure that we are all taking into consideration that COVID has so many different levels of things that we will ultimately see throughout the next 10 or 20 years. I mean, if you look back 100 years has this taken for another pandemic to occur, and what are the side effects from it? What are going to be the emotional side effects? What are going to be not just the physical or but mental, and the aspects of how we're going to make sure that they're well kept. Thank you.
Christy, you want me to take over?
It's good to see you back, President.
Sorry about that. My computer decided to do an update right in the middle of everything. A brand new computer. Okay.
So that was our last comment. So we're to consent agenda, President.
Thank you. I see Wendy Giles, you have your hand raised, and I saw you spoke. I don't know if that's still, if you want to speak again, go ahead. If not, are you there? No? Okay.
No.
All right, we'll come back if you do have something else to say. Okay, thank you all for your patience on that. Okay, now we'll be moving on to consent agenda. And let me get my little cheat sheet, which I lost when my computer went down. So the consent, what's that?
You found it?
Yeah, well, I'll just read it from the board. The board.
Perfect.
Items listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine and may have been discussed at a previous board meeting. There is no discussion of these items prior to the board vote unless a member of the board requests specific items to be discussed and or removed from the consent agenda. Each item on the consent agenda approved by the Board of Trustees shall be deemed to have been considered in full and adopted as recommended. With that said, board, is there any concerns or questions about the consent agenda? Christy?
Not at this time, thank you.
Okay. John, Pef? Brian?
Nothing from me, thank you.
Okay, John Walton?
Nothing from me.
Okay, thank you. I think maybe John Pef's computer is restarting also. Okay, well then, could I get a motion, please, to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
I'll second. I beat you. Okay, so I have a motion to approve consent agenda by Christy Dawson, second by Debbie Crandall. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Crandall?
Aye.
Trustee Dawson?
Aye.
Trustee Knaff? Trustee Swanson?
Aye.
Trustee Walton?
Aye.
Trustee Paff?
He gave thumbs up, but he's
Okay.
muted at the
Thank
moment.
you. Sorry, I couldn't see
I
him.
see you, John. Okay, thank you
Can
very
we
much.
get,
That
sorry,
passes.
can I interrupt for a second? Can we get
Sure.
student advisory in on that too?
Oh, yes, student advisory, we usually ask you first. So if I forget, you just raise your hand and let me know. So if you can unmute yourself, if you have, where are you?
Sounds
There
good.
you are, you're unmuted.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Thanks, Brian. Okay, our first item in action is, this is actually a public hearing. So I will officially open the public hearing with my pretend gavel at 7:19 p.m. And this public hearing of Resolution 1056 regarding sufficiency of instructional materials for fiscal year 2020 and 2021. Director Silva, do you have anything that you'd like to present to the public on this? Your thumbs up. Let me unmute you. What is going on?
This meeting's like somebody else tried to, there we go.
Okay, I think I'm good.
Yay.
Yay. All right. So Director Silva, just wanted to share that every year the board has to hold a public hearing to make a determination through the adoption of a resolution as to whether each pupil in our school district has the instructional materials that they need in order to access the standards, state standards. And so that's why we're having this public hearing. We have all materials, everything has been ordered. Students have what they need, whether it be textbooks and or online materials to access their curriculum via online e-textbooks, so to speak. And so that's why we're here, a public hearing to state that we have all materials sufficient for all of our students at this time.
Okay, thank you. And the fiscal impact of that is what is noted on the agenda item, which is $192,000 from the general fund and $28,000 from Measure A. And I'm assuming that is all online tools.
Yes,
28,000.
right. These would be the online components of the textbooks.
Okay.
So even though we have physical textbooks, students also have access to ebooks online.
Okay, thank you.
For most of our curriculum.
Well, we need that now, don't we?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
And $192,000 from the general fund. That is an average of what we always spend every year, or is this outside of the norm?
This one might be a little bit more, only because for this current school year, we adopted a geography textbook and online curriculum for the high school, which was at about $36,000, so a little bit more. So there are times of the year, there are times when we have a little bit more expenditures as a result of new adoptions. And I would say that high school adoption was a big one. And another component was that we had to renew some our Read 180 and Math 180, which are our intervention systems. They went through an upgrade, and so we had to purchase new materials for the upgrade as well as the online components. So I would say those are the two bigger items that made it go a little bit higher than the norm. So, but it happens. I mean, there are years where that happens.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Thank you. Okay. That's explainable. Okay. Christy, you have any questions?
Not at this time, thanks.
Okay. John Paff?
No, thank you, Ani. Just a general observation. This is another case where public hearing is posted and is on the web. And as we move forward this year, perhaps we should be trying to figure out how to actually disperse that even a little bit further, because I think it's just hard. It's certainly no one's going to the school and see it now. So, but that is not the question at hand. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Don. Brian?
I don't have anything. I just, and I know you're going to get to it anyway, but I want to just, as a reminder, I'm very curious as to our student representatives' take right now on online materials that are available. So if we can make sure that
Definitely.
we touch base there too as we make our way around the horn.
Okay. We're on the last edge of the horn before we get to student. John Walton?
No questions.
Okay, thank you. Gabby, do you have any questions or comments you want to make regarding the this item, instructional materials?
For me personally, I mean, it's different for me. I only have 3 classes right now, but I think my classes have done well in making sure that everyone has the appropriate materials. I think a lot of it is though, like at the expense of the teacher, like it's not very convenient. So for example, I'm taking culinary. And so every week we fill out a survey with what we need. And then Ms. Erickson will put it out and allow us to access it. And so that has been really helpful. I think it's difficult for the teachers, but personally for me and everyone I've talked to, no one has been lacking in material. But also I think it'll vary from school to school and student to student, depending on what resources they have for themselves and the classes they're taking also.
Great, that's great feedback, thank you. Okay, I'm gonna put this to public comment. If you have comments on this item, and this is still the hearing portion, go ahead and raise your hand. And I have Jennifer Braden. Go ahead.
Hi, yes, I thought that I should bring this to the attention of everyone that we're discussing, is that my inquiry would be regarding the supplying of internet and Wi-Fi access and or hotspots equitably to everyone. After that viral video of 2 children sitting in front of a Taco Bell trying to access internet was released across nationwide, it really, garners the thought that making sure that we are supplying this format for all of our citizens, at least, in our city and what encompasses our bracket. So I just want to make sure that we are reiterating that thought and that we are making sure that all students among our district are being represented.
Thank you. We'll be talking a little bit more about that later on as well. Okay, seeing no other public comment, I'll go ahead and bring it back and close the public hearing at 7:26 p.m. And now we are on action discussion item A. Whoops. And now this is the same item. We're just now going to be voting on it. And bear with me for a second. I lost my page. Well, anyway, it's
So we're voting on the approval of resolution.
Yeah, I found it. Sorry.
There you go.
Yeah, adoption of resolution number 1056 regarding sufficiency of instructional materials for fiscal year 2020 and 21. I realize that was what I just read, but this is the item to go ahead and vote on it. Since we just discussed it, I'll bring it back to the board just for a few seconds. If there's any questions, you can speak up. Okay, and any other public comment? Okay, we'll bring it back for a motion, please.
I move that we approve resolution number 1056 regarding sufficiency of instructional materials for the fiscal year of 2020 through 2021.
All second.
Okay, thank you. I have a motion by Christy Dawson, seconded by Brian Swanson. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Crandall?
Aye.
Trustee Dawson?
Aye.
Trustee Paff?
Aye.
Trustee Swanson?
Aye.
Trustee Walton?
Aye.
Student Advisory?
Aye.
Great. Thank you. That passes 5-0. Okay, next item is contract for services with Monterey Bay Charter School at the Pacific Grove campus. This is for specifically nutrition. Director Lip, are you with us?
Hi.
Go ahead. Yes, thank you.
Do you need me to explain it?
Please, if you could just, it is regarding, we are providing meals to the charter school over on David Avenue.
So yeah, this is mainly for our regular program, but we did provide meals before USDA extended the waivers for us to serve anyone 18 and under for free. So yes, they've previously contracted with Aquaterra and they're looking for other vendors. So they approached us and they're interested in purchasing just a complete meal that includes an entree, a fruit, a vegetable. They did not want milk. And they would come and pick it up from our high school every day. And they were averaging about 50 meals for a regular program.
Okay. And I saw that at this time, we would not need to hire any additional staff.
No, not for 50 meals. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so there's no financial impact except for potential revenue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you. Christy, do you have any questions? You're muted.
Thank you. It sounds wonderful.
John Path?
Yeah, there is financial expense, right? We are buying more to do it, but we don't.
We're buying food to do it, but not at the cost where we're going to be losing money to do it.
Understood that we make a little bit. We're actually doing it as a service, and I would say more as a courtesy, and I appreciate that. I think a courtesy to Monterey Bay Charter School, who's renting from us anyway, is a good thing. So thank you for putting it together.
Mm-hmm.
Brian?
No questions. I'm glad that it worked out and that we were able to do it.
Great. John Walton?
Thanks. Yeah. So to John Paff's question, do you have a general sense of what the expense to revenue is?
So generally our food costs and food and labor costs for our meals are about $250, $275.
Okay. And are we just preparing the same meals we do for our students, or are they special meals?
They're only getting cold prep food. So we sent over like a sample menu of like different deli sandwiches, nut-free butter sandwiches, protein boxes, different things like that.
I guess my point is we're not having to buy special.
Oh, no.
It's all part of the regular food we would buy for our own students.
Yeah.
Okay. No other questions. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll open up for public comment. If you have any comment, you can raise your hand. Seeing none right away. Go ahead and bring it back to the board for a motion, unless there are any other questions. I'll make a motion to approve the contract for services with Monterey Bay Charter School at Pacific Grove campus.
Seconded.
Okay, we have a motion by Debbie Crandall, second by Christy Dawson. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Crandall?
Aye.
Trustee Dawson?
Aye.
Trustee Paff?
Aye.
Trustee Swanson?
Aye.
Trustee Walton?
Aye.
Student Advisory?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. That passes 5-0. Next item is action discussion C. This is resolution 1058, restricting facility use to limit the spread of coronavirus, COVID-19. So this, our facilities have been closed due to county, possibly state too, I think, requirements, and there's signs and everything that they're not for use. But I understand that we want to consider limiting them additionally to that. Matt Kelly, is that accurate?
Yeah, that's accurate. So basically, a couple of weeks ago, I was in either a CASH or a CASBO webinar, and Lozano Smith was there, and they were advising districts across the state to have a board resolution to suspend facilities use under the Civic Center Act because of the public health crisis. And basically what that does is that under the Civic Center Act, it doesn't allow us to like explicitly suspend use, but it does allow the board to regulate the use. So with that regulation comes, a lot of things. We've had a lot of requests. I take that back. We haven't had a lot of requests, but right now we do have the swim club, Monterey Bay Swim Club, using the pool. They were able to get back in there and use the pool when the county opened pools. They submitted a plan and are running their program accordingly to that plan. And then we just recently had a request from the city of Pacific Grove to have some camps, day camps in accordance with the county health regulations in the evenings outside. I think it was at the middle school. But recently we've also we're receiving the principals are receiving requests from PTAs. Last board meeting, we talked about the butterfly bazaar, but I think that's kind of gone away. But what I think staff is looking for is where do we draw that line of facilities use? Do we say absolutely none? We keep our facilities open so people can use our facilities, but we don't have facilities use. In that case, we would go back to the city and to the swim club and say, we're suspending facilities use again, which we would be allowed to under this resolution. Or do we allow certain groups and certain events as long as they are abiding by the health ordinances or the health guidelines? So I guess with that, I'll turn it over to you guys for discussion.
Yeah, thank you. I have a couple immediate questions. So if this resolution were to pass, the plan then is to not allow any of those activities.
Not necessarily true. What it does is it allows the board to limit certain activities. So
how would we do that?
By passing the resolution and then creating some sort of guidelines to our facilities use. So right now it really is open to anyone to be able to put in a facilities use permit, and it's hard for staff to have any authority to say no because we don't have any regulations from the board level to say no, and this is going to give staff and you guys that authority to do that.
And if, as it is right now, if we have, let's just say, that request from the city to use the middle school, is it our responsibility to make sure they are following the guidelines for COVID, or is it that they're allowed to use the facility and it's up to them to follow?
Yes, it's up to them to follow. But that doesn't mean that that we don't have any liability in the situation. Ultimately, if we are permitting them, we're giving them a permit to use our facility, even though they're insured, we're also insured on it. And so with the way that the law reads, and Dr. Porras can expand on a little bit more, is that there really is no law protecting anyone when it comes to this. And if someone were to get sick and they were able to trace it back to our facility, we could possibly have liability in that.
Okay, thank you. Christy,
well,
do you have any questions?
Well, my concern is that, I know things have changed as we've gone through COVID. I was out yesterday and people aren't wearing gloves and everybody wore gloves for a while out of fear. I like that our kids can be, as they say right now, being outside, you're much safer. So I hate to strip young kids from the ability to be out and be involved with with sports or activities that gives them things that we cannot give them as a school right now. So I would be, I don't know, hearing you, Matt, right now, if it's best we have the resolution and we still have the flexibility to allow things. Are we just trying to cover ourselves by having that in place? Because I just hate to see that people just had no access if we do the resolution.
So a couple of things that, one, I should have been a little bit more clear on is that by passing this resolution, we are not going to close our facilities to people and families coming to our fields and using them, shooting hoops, getting some exercise, walking the track. What we would be looking at is temporarily suspending teams and organizations from formally requesting and being approved to use our facilities and to pay for them and stuff like that. I forget what was the other question you asked me. Sorry.
Well, it sounds like they can still use them, so you're still making a decision. And I'm also, to say that somebody went out and played some soccer and therefore were liable, I don't know how you'd ever ascertain that playing soccer versus having dinner versus a study pod that we're going to get sued. I don't know. I hate to keep stripping things from kids that are struggling to be connected. So that I don't know what you say about that. I don't know that there's an answer. So that's my concern.
If I may, Matt.
Yes.
Let me just take a little bit of a crack at this. The resolution is really just what it's doing is allowing us to intercede on the Civic Center Act and be able to tell other groups, no, you can't use our facility because of the danger it poses in terms of the violation of some of the county regulations. So we're not really taking away individuals, families, or students' ability to use our fields just in a general way. It's more about giving us the authority to say no when groups formally ask to use our facilities as a company or a team or an organization. The problem right now is that we're not running afoul, but we're a little bit of obstruction is happening with the Civic Center Act. A person can make an argument, no, you can't tell us no because the Civic Center Act says that you have to allow us the ability to use your facilities. Everybody in the state is running into this issue. This is basically giving independent authority to the district to be able to regulate the use of its facilities more. And we can't be told, well, there's other laws that don't allow you to do that. This gives us more authority. I don't know if that helps, Matt. That's kind of.
I think you said it better than I did. Yes, thank you.
He usually does.
Yes, he does.
Christy, is that good or?
Well, it sounds like, yeah, I'd like to hear from the rest of the board.
Right. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, John Path?
So we started off saying that our fields are completely closed, and they are not. They allow people to walk. They allow families on. I haven't seen the guy who shoots a water rocket on the middle school field in a while, but that's completely family. It's a dad and 2 kids, and none of that would be prevented under this resolution, and it is not prevented right now. I understand what Ralph said, which is we have the ability to restrict groups without fear of retort from them, essentially, which is what we're doing. We're saying, look, there is an act that says we have to keep them open, but we're not going to allow groups, and we have some protection if we pass this. And under those, under that constraint, no teams, no organized sports right now. Things we're not allowing our football team to practice, so we're not going to allow flag football or Panther football, as it were. And this works for me. In fact, I'm the other way in terms of keeping them open. I'm constantly wondering why the Robert Down field is continuously locked because it's still open space. And Trustee Dawson is absolutely correct that outside is fundamentally better than constantly inside in terms of both physical, mental health, and if you are separated rationally, I have no fears of COVID. So I guess I think that this gives us another tool in the toolbox without defining further restrictions. So I'm okay with that.
Thank you, John. Brian?
I'm okay with it. I like that we have a little bit more control. I don't know ultimately how, and this doesn't really address it, and I don't think it was necessarily intended to, how we enforce some of these things where if we say a group, an organized group isn't allowed to use it, or we say they're not, and then they show up anyway on a Saturday afternoon and start to, and they start up a game, but that's a different kettle of fish anyway. This gives us a little bit more control, and I think we need it right now. And so, yeah, in short, I'm supporting it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. John Walton?
I'm in favor of this because I think it does give us more control that we need. I mean, our staff, whether it's the classified staff that have to do the cleaning or the teachers, have all expressed a lot of concerns. And I think we need to be respectful of that. Some of those concerns, whether they're students coming back or general public accessing the facilities, I think the concerns are going to be the same. So for the same reason we say that the students can't come back, and we're primarily an educational institution, not a recreational institution, I think we need as much control over that as possible, and to give Ralph and Director Kelly the ability to manage those as safely as possible, in hopes that someday we can bring the students back, because that's my primary goal.
Thank you. Gabby, did you have anything that you'd like to add?
I just want to say that I agree. I mean, not just as a student, but also I use the fields a lot because I play soccer, so I'm there a lot. And I think it is important that we limit which organized groups can use the field, because I have seen people there without a permit or something like that. And I think that reduces how the community can use the field, whether because there isn't any space or just because families feel unsafe being there with large groups of people. So I agree.
Okay, thank you. John Papp, did you have something else?
I did, Matt. I just wanted to, or Dr. Porras, Director Kelly, Dr. Porras, I just wanted to clarify. This resolution is at the moment very specifically noting that we are going to continue to allow swimming, which has been deemed a very safe activity because we chlorinate the water. Is that correct?
Not necessarily. Yes and no. It gives you the ability to say, yes, we would like to have swimming, or no, that's where we're going to draw the line. We don't think that's the safest way to use our facilities, or we think there's a danger, a health danger by allowing it.
Let me rephrase that.
Okay.
We currently allow it. And this doesn't, what this does is solidify that we have the ability to define that permission, but we right now don't have any reason to change.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yes. Sorry.
Thanks, John. Okay, I'll open this up for public comment. And Jill Houston. Go ahead.
Hey guys. So couple questions. As a district employee and a parent of 4 kids, 2 of them being high schoolers, we're saying that swimming is okay. That is a safe activity for our kids to be involved in. So does that mean that high school sponsored swimming and water polo are going to be happening, or we are going to be limiting the use of our pool by outside swimming activities?
Do you have another question as well? Or
so that's my only question. I'm just wondering why MBSC is allowed to use our pool, but high school sponsored swimming is not okay.
Okay, thank you.
Want me to answer that?
Yeah, I was just gonna, I am gonna ask you to answer that,
Okay.
Director Kelly, but I do want to say that it does say City of Pacific Grove and just district facilities. So anyway, go ahead, Matt.
So district sponsored swimming is allowed. So if our high school swim team wanted to swim, only swim, and in lanes and still practice social distancing and everything else, they would have the ability to do that. It would be similar to the high school tennis team going out to the tennis courts and practicing singles. Those are all allowed. The county allows that both of those activities, or allows that activity to happen. What it doesn't allow, though, is for team sports and contact team sports like water polo to be able to meet, and they wouldn't be able to necessarily social distance. So now, if the water polo team wanted to come out there and swim in lanes, they could probably do that, yes. But as far as having scrimmages and games and stuff like that, they would not be. We would not be able to allow that to happen. Under the county is saying we can't allow that to happen.
Thanks, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
Rebecca Gamacho?
Hello. See, is my
Hello?
video there?
No.
What did you do? You just totally leave us.
We see you and hear you, though. I mean, we see your name.
Well, maybe I'm just talking then. So my name is Joshua Miller. I am the PTA president at Forest Grove. And we're really concerned with this topic because we know the children have had so much taken away from them. And we are trying to come up with some great ways that they might be able to get back to seeing people, all but, at least 6 feet away or whatever the requirements. And so we're looking at trying to save some activities by getting creative and coming up with different ways. So the two biggest events that we're trying to come together with is like a drive-in movie event where we could use the back parking lot by the tennis courts in Forest Grove. So we could have everybody in their cars spaced out every other parking spot or whatever distance we need. So that people can at least kind of be in the same place together to see something. The other event that we started a few years ago that's turned out to be the biggest single event we do at Forest Grove is called Trunk or Treat, where families decorate their cars. The kids can get dressed up, and typically they walk from car to car to get treats. But this year what we're thinking is taking that same parking lot and basically wrapping the cars every third spot or something so the families could still decorate the vehicles. The kids could get dressed up because I'm guessing door-to-door trick-or-treating is not going to be much of a thing this year. And so kids could have something to get excited for, something to get out and actually see humans. And we think we could do it safely where the cars are spaced out. The kids that would just get dressed up, they would come and they drive through like a parade style. And then at the end, we could hand them a goodie bag, much like we do lunches right now. And so, we're just really concerned that, I'm still trying to figure out exactly what the yes is, but I believe the yes means that there's no events, but the board would have some approval to allow certain things. And I guess my hope is for our little Falcons, we really want to be able to do some form of an event. And we think it can be done safely. The guidance from the board is really what we're looking for. And if this does pass, we'd like to know what's the guidance going to be able to allow those events.
Thank you. Matt, did you have a response to that?
No, I think what he's saying is exactly what staff is asking for as well. Is by passing the resolution, we're also looking for that guidance too on what the restrictions will be.
So, I mean, based on the descriptions of those couple activities, I felt that those would be in compliance with the county rules. So we wouldn't necessarily decline that. Or is because if we're not sure, like, and I know you can't define everything, but if we're not sure, I'm not comfortable with this. But anyway,
well, I guess yeah, and I guess that's what that I'm not sure, and a lot of these decisions are extremely hard because you do want our kids and you do want our community to be able to get out and do these things because we've all been locked up, or not since they're locked up. We're not in jail, but we've been on. We've been
I don't know.
on,
I'm pretty locked up.
Yeah, yeah. And so, like Dr. Porras said, is it really the resolution is really, I guess, setting guidelines to what we allow and what we don't allow, and that could be nothing, or it could be, we're just going to go by the county guidelines for now.
Okay.
I do know amongst discussion with staff, when we discussed this, it did feel like it was, one more thing to have to manage when we're still trying to manage the newness of distance learning. I did get feedback from some teachers that say, well, does that mean now there's going to be an expectation that we go to PTA events when we're already putting in tons of extra hours? So there's some of that too in some of those discussions.
Okay. All right. Thank you. John, did you want to add something to that?
Well, this doesn't address the what. It just addresses that we retain the authority, and we don't. We are basically taking authority away from the Civics Act. It doesn't say that we're going to define tonight under any circumstances what is and what isn't permissible, or provide that guidance. That's not what this resolution is.
No, but I think that's kind of what staff, and that's what we're at, along with the approval of the resolution. We would also be asking for some of that guidance as well, unless you wanted to bring it back at another meeting.
Matt, that would have to come back. I'm certainly not prepared to try and explain every possible scenario. That wasn't the request.
All right, I'm going to go back to public comment now. Yeah, Finn Thomas. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hi, Steve Thomas again. Speaking to you as the president of Pacific Grove Pony Baseball and Softball. Obviously, we have a great partnership with the school district as well as the city for field use, and then through the sweat equity, if you will, the upkeep of the fields that we provide at all of the sites that we utilize. I'm in favor of this resolution for the simple reason that it does give greater control to the district. There are multiple levels of rules and guidelines that are coming out from the state, from CIF, from CCS, from the county. And if you put them all together, you can find a little sliver of gray area that allows things to happen. In our case, we made the decision early on to suspend anything formal because under our insurance, it doesn't allow us to utilize your fields or the city's fields for an official event without approval. And so any nonprofit entity that is utilizing a field for an official activity would be going against their own insurance and their own nonprofit guidelines because they would need to have the approval of the location where they're holding that event in order to be in compliance. And so I do want to put that out there. I do encourage the availability for individuals and families and groups that is allowed by the county, whether it be clinics or camps or what have you. And I think that that's a great stepping stone. I do want to encourage the district to provide as much outreach to the community as possible. If there are these informal groups that are gathering, that letting them know that they should be following county guidelines, wearing masks, social distancing, all that kind of stuff. The better the community can get at that, and certainly our student athletes and the groups that provide those services to them. I think the more comfortable people in the general community will feel about utilizing the facilities. So I do encourage your approval of this. I do want to second what Trustee Path was saying. Approving this just simply lays out the guidelines, and then bring it back to what those activities would look like once the community and staff and the teachers have a chance to weigh in. There's too many things going on in the community and ideas that it would preclude this particular resolution from being approved in a way that's meaningful and providing a stepping stone to perhaps a little bit of an expanded use later. So I do urge the approval of the resolution as it's written. Thank you.
Thank you. Wendy Giles? Go ahead.
Hi, I just wanted to weigh in with some information about water polo and the training. There are private water polo clubs. My daughter belongs to one, and they successfully train without any contact, just utilizing swimming many yards for long periods of time. So there's no contact, and we travel outside of the area to do that. Just a little bit of information. Thank you.
Thank you. Jill Houston?
It's me again, and I'm going to echo both what Steve and Wendy said. My question is, as activities are governed for the high school with entities, CIF and CCS and those sort of entities, we do have activities such as PG Pony that are non-for-profit, but then we also have things like the Monterey Bay Swim Club that are for-profit using our pools. And so we're saying that that is safe, but our own high school students can't use our pools because it's not safe, or can't use our field. So I'm just looking for clarification on that, please.
Okay, thank you.
Madam President?
Yes.
If you like, I can answer that.
Please, thank you.
I think it's what Director Keller was intimating earlier. We are still bound by the county regulations regarding the social distancing and the all the rules around COVID. The distinction that we're making here is the swim club is following the county guidelines. They're using lanes, there's separation. That activity is not a team organized event. So they're cleared by the county to do that. A water polo team is a team event, and right now, even within school sports, it's restricted and not allowed. However, if the water polo team wanted to do what the swim team is doing, lanes and not an organized sanctioned sport, but just keeping the distancing, that is allowed in the same regulations that the swim club is doing. So even though there might be, it's not that we're disallowing school versus non-school, it's the function of the activity itself. It has to be followed within the guidelines of the county.
Thank you, Dr. Purse. Okay, I see no other public comment. I'll bring it back to the board. Board, is there any additional questions that you have? No? Okay.
Are you going around?
Well, I was going to, but I didn't think that there was any, but yeah, I will. Christy?
No, I agree with John Paff. I mean, obviously, when we start to get into the nitty gritty, there are a lot more layers, but the resolution, I appreciate Dr. Porras making that clear. And Matt Kelly, too.
I set it up for him.
That's right. You followed your lead.
John Paff?
I have a couple questions for Dr. Porras, I think. One is, right now we are looking and continuing to look for a hold harmless from the state. Is that correct? Well, hold harmless if someone comes into a school building and somehow they trace it back. I mean, that's one of the problems, right? There's no liability protection. The state hasn't said, no, schools, we're going to give you some liability protection. Has that happened yet?
No, it has not. The governor is resisting any such protections for schools. The federal government is the same.
Okay. Next thing is this unfortunately has no end date. This is a resolution that should have a sunset clause after which we have to bring it back. And in a perfect world, I'd have already asked you to bring that in. Is there an intent on this right now? We did read December 2020 in the cover sheet, which would be a perfectly good time frame to make sure we bring it back in January.
I have, we are putting it in the tickler file to bring it back once the COVID restrictions are removed. The final be it further resolved indicates that the resolution becomes effective immediately upon adoption and remains effective until repealed by formal board action. So there is no, within itself, there is no action to close it. We need to bring it back to do so. And that's partially because we just don't know when this will end. And it does give that way the board some opportunity to be flexible on the end date. Even if COVID restrictions end, we may want to delay it a little bit until we get ourselves settled. I think this provides us maximum flexibility.
It does, but it's actually one of the things, it's one of the rare cases where I think a real date, that's not true. There's lots of laws that should have real date ending, but they don't. But okay, thank you. That's it.
Brian?
Nothing further. If we're going to just let it run, and PAF sounds like he's down with that, so that's good.
Okay. John Walton, anything further?
Nothing for me.
Okay.
Madam President, if I may.
Yes.
This may help, maybe will help staff, and it sounds like it would be amenable to what the board's already discussing now, and provide, I think, a little bit of flexibility for our families and the PTAs and such. I think the staff's intent here is to allow school-sponsored events, such as the trunk or treat, to the extent that we can, and that they follow the county guidelines. We can certainly work on the liability aspect by having our legal counsel just draw up a very simple waiver that makes sure that the groups that are using it, that are school-sponsored, follow all the guidelines from the county and social distancing and the like. I think the staff is comfortable with allowing those activities to continue because it serves a purpose for our own community. The outside groups at this point, until further notice, I think are still a no. That's just more than we can handle. By saying yes to these other groups within the district is not imposing any kind of responsibility on district teachers to be at the events, just simply saying yes to these events with restrictions that we'll note. I think that's what we're looking for. It allows us to take care of our own. It doesn't change anything in the resolution, and the board certainly has the right to come back at the next board meeting and put more in if we like, but that would give staff enough direction to move forward. You don't have to take action on that. That's our intent. And unless it's something different, you need to let us know specifically.
Okay. Gabby, did you have anything else additional? I don't want to forget you.
Nope, nothing for me.
Okay, thanks. All right, I'm going to take a stab at this. I would like to make a motion to approve this resolution 1058, restricting facility use that is outside of school-sponsored events that meet the current state and government guidelines to limit the spread of coronavirus COVID-19.
Are you adding anything to this resolution?
Yeah, the long sentence there. You want me to read it again?
No, but
I just wanted to be specific that we're at this time, we are not saying no to any school events unless it's outside of what is allowed by the state and the county and government.
Isn't that what we're supposed to be discussing next time?
Well, if you think if that's what you feel, I just want to make it clear that that's my intention.
I have no reason to add that.
Okay.
It's as written is sufficient.
You want to make a motion then, John?
I'd like to revise that motion to as written.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. I think I heard Brian.
Yeah.
So we have a motion to approve this resolution 1058, restricting facility use to limit the spread of coronavirus COVID-19 as written, and seconded by John Path and seconded by Brian Swanson. And this is resolutions are always a roll call, but roll call vote, please.
Trustee Crandall?
Aye.
Trustee Dawson?
Aye.
Trustee Paff?
Aye.
Trustee Swanson?
Aye.
Trustee Walton?
Aye.
Student Advisory?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. That passes 5-0. And thank you for all the comments that we received tonight about that.
So we're going to bring this back next board meeting on what the restrictions will be?
Yeah, I mean, if that's enough time, that's the 16th, right? No, that's the city. 12th? I have it right here.
I'm sorry,
Right here.
17th.
17th. Is that enough? 14 days?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, then yes, please.
Okay.
The next item, action discussion D, is the item that we pulled. And so we are on action discussion E, which is the acceptance of the 2019-20 unaudited actuals financial report. We have discussed the budget a lot and the audit as well, but I do want to hear Song, if you could give us a summary of the results on this unaudited actuals.
Thank you, President Crandall. It's going to be a presentation, but it's a small presentation of 92 pages. No, just kidding, 12 pages. This is, yes, we talked about the budget. This is closing a chapter of a fiscal year, 2019 and 20. Minimally in compliance with Ad Code, we have to present to the board and in public to show the result, how we ended from last fiscal year. So I'm going to do my PowerPoint. I'll share my screen.
We can see it.
Okay. I'll just do probably instead of do slide by slide, I'll just do directly from PowerPoint. This is 2019 and 20 fiscal year. The three right columns. Let me see if I can. Is it too small?
It's pretty small.
It's small.
Yeah, it's actually too small. It's too small.
Okay.
Yeah, that's better. Maybe you could take the side panel.
Yeah, it's just that I cannot, it's blocking the screens of the people in Zoom.
Oh.
Blocking the right three columns, but it's okay because the topic is not about the budget, because the right three columns actually adopt the budget for this current fiscal year and the two subsequent fiscal years, which we did that in June. We'll come back for the revisions. We always do that. We'll do the revision in October, and we'll do the first interim revision in December. So that's just for display because it's required by law for us to show that as well, because this is board approved budget for 2021. But tonight is about the second, the 2019-20 unaudited actuals. It's unaudited because we have closed the books, by our staff. And the next step is for the auditors to come in to audit our books. They'll be here in October, and then they'll present their findings, if any, to the board in January. But before that, they'll submit the report to the state in December. So there's all the sequential steps. But for us, in terms of closing the books, this is the final step for us. So for 1920, unaudited actuals compared to the second interim, which was done in March, about 6 months ago, was presented to the board. That was the last official revision of the budget of 1920. So obviously we want to take a look how we performed, how well we performed, or how bad we performed in comparison to the projections that we did at that time. So second interim, this is what we show at that time, showing operating surplus of $124,223, and then going to all the components of the fund balance is listed all here, with an undesignated, actually reserve percentage of 12.3%. Undesignated in a sense is not specific to how we're going to spend this percentage, but is actually assigned anyway because it's board approved. But we ended the year with $716,458 operating surplus, with 12.8% of undesignated percentage or dollar amount, but assigned anyway. Is assigned meaning that the board if the board approves it tonight, will be assigned to be spent later on, however the board desires to spend. Just real quickly in here, when we finished the year, there's increase of restricted funds. They're almost 50%, most of that, those are donations, PTAs, and all various other organizations restricted by the donors that we cannot really tap into that for discretionary spending. So you can see it's more than double. It's important for us to segregate that in our books, and that's how we're going to report that as well to the county and to the state. So obviously we want to know what the variance, and this is the next slide. I'm just trying to see whether I can, I think it's got covered partially, but most of I think the important numbers are right. Hopefully you can see that. Second enrollment, 124, and then $716,458. $716,458. The delta or the variance between the two is $592,000 and change. So we want to know what the variance, and it's actually to the good. Part of that, I think we need to bring back, and every presentation I talk about restricted and unrestricted, and it's very important because if we don't, we could commingling thinking that we have money to spend, but they're restricted for a purpose. We can't really tap into it for discretionary spending or for salaries or benefits. So we always have to really point that out. So a second interim, even though we show the operating surplus 124, but at that time we had carry over, meaning without this carry over, the net increase is actually a little bit higher, because meaning the carryover funds were included in the expenditures column, which artificially lower the surplus, okay? So there's just a little bit of reverse logic, but in a nutshell is that the surplus was actually higher had it not been for the carryover funds. So we kind of detail it out here. So when we take out the carryover funds, the difference is actually $236,240. So these are the components. These are all the changes, and I put in some highlights in here. So the highlights, the highlighted ones, in my opinion, they highly or mostly related to COVID-19. Had it not been for this pandemic, we would not have this kind of variances or the magnitude of this. Number one, for example, one of this making up for this variance is the $25,000 transfer to adult aid programs. It's less by this dollar amount, $25,688. I mean, just like the general fund and all the other funds, you're going to see something with adult ed because the closure since mid-March. There's going to be less of spending of everything, supplies, all this extra hour, any overtime or any kind of thing that we would have to spend in ordinary times. So this time we had a savings. So that means general fund actually needed to spend to transfer less to adult ed. So in a way, kind of translating into a savings to the general fund. So it's a plus for us. The next one along the line of revenues, property tax dollars. We talked about that at the budget adoption in June, saying that there was a difference. And I think a couple of series of meetings, we talked about that too. All this started out in March, where we realized that the December receipts, property tax receipts, were actually less than projection. So at that time, there was a lot of speculation or discussion whether could be actually delinquencies or, property tax or property homeowners did not or pay the property tax dollars later and would actually, so the tax dollars did not translate into directly to the school district. But it turned out that was actually not the case. The last few months we found out is that the valuation for a solar farm was overassessed. And that entity subsequently appealed to the assessor's office and did not pay the assessed valuation. So As a result of that, many school districts were impacted, including us. So our share of that is $305,000, $837. Couple months ago, before this came to final analysis, the impact was much higher, to the tune of more than $500,000. So when the final receipts came in June, made up for part of it. So in the end, it's showing that it's about a little bit over $305,000. Now, it's just for full disclosure, we'll still be working with the assessor office and the auditor controls office to find out what exactly does this mean. So if the solar firm refused to pay the overvaluation, over assessment, but according to the AC office, which is the auditor controls office and assessor's office, will be made whole in 2021. So we don't have the specifics. We don't know whether this money is going to be actually paid back to us or is actually forever gone. So at this point, because of the audit guidelines, we have to have a guarantee that this is owed to us. We cannot record this as a receivable in 1920. So you see it's a minus, meaning it's done, it's gone. It's less than actual, less than a projection by that amount. The next item is actually a little bit of surprise, and I spoke about that at the budget presentation in August, where the special ed the first time is giving some extra money. For decades, where the special ed programs were given a lot of mandates and compliance without corresponding dollars from the federal government. So this came as a surprise, and on top of that, it's come as an unrestricted, no strings attached, meaning the school district can spend its money either on special ed or on the general ed programs. The dollar amount is $90,100. And of course, for us, the second question that when we realized this, it came about as a surprise, all of a sudden in August before we closed the books, and it's actually attributed to 1920, whether we're going to continue getting more money. And the answer is nobody knows. But it's good. At least we get it one time if it does not happen again next year. The next item is called MAA money, Medical Administrative Activities. Every year it seems like we get a little bit of that. It's really thanks to the efforts of our teachers and our certificated staff and also our classified staff for the time that they do for anything above and beyond required, the regular routine, but also not funded by CDE. So that federal government allows us to claim that. If you have all these activities, you can file a log, all the minutes and maybe going up to hours, we can file a claim. And this is how much we received for 1920. The bad part of this, we cannot predict how much, we cannot really budget for it. The state laws is very clear that says you can record this as your receipts as a revenue in your school district budget is only when you receive it. So it's a guess every year, and we don't even put in as a budget. It's not a huge amount, but it's something. It's $10,700 for us. Along the line of income, revenues, the next item is income, interest income, and other local income. It's not just interest, is really an increase of almost $160,000, $159,541. And again, this is a second color item. Had it been really, especially local income and interest income, because we're spending less. So, we're earning a little bit more with our cash, with our county treasury, we're getting, more interest. So I just labeled this with a color coding here saying that my opinions is actually related to that is a little bit of a plus for us. The next items is about expenditures. We talk about revenues is always when there's enhanced or increased revenues, we get, will help our bottom line. The next one is the reduction of expenditures, and that's utilities. PG&E, water, actually water came out a little bit more than usual because we're more hand washing. but savings of gas and electricity. Is a downward consumption by more than $104,000. So it's a plus to our bottom line. But the next two items, the opposite, because we're closure, BSRP really could not really do the regular functions of providing childcare, and that means they could not generate income. As we know, BSRP has been actually the last 2 years really generating or operating a surplus to the tune of really helping a little bit of the regular state preschool program. But for last year, they couldn't do that. On top of that, really needed help from a general fund. So this came out is completely not budgeted because second interim was in early March and the closure happened in mid-March. So the general fund had to contribute a little bit more than $95,000. Same kind of theme with the next item, and that's cafeteria fund. The question came out whether we got the waivers. Because of waivers, we got reimbursements from the state and the federal government. We did, but it's really not enough to offset the losses from sales of meals, because of obviously for 3.5 months we could not do sell any items. So that's an increased loss of $85,269. We did budget $9,800, a little bit over $9,800. But it was not enough. A second interim, that's the 9842. At the end of the day, when we close the books, is already more than we expected. More than budgeted. It's something we expected, but it just didn't know until we truly close the books. Then the next group is just already a combination of supplies of all the departments and sites, school sites. Custodial maintenance, those are the chunk of that, of the $144,000 savings. Is already, I was taken by surprise when I look at the numbers to detail to come out with this total. Really a lot of savings there, custodial maintenance. And school sites as well, the discretionary spending, they did not spend every dime that we gave them, the per pupil. And also department supplies, like in the district office, my department, HR, superintendent's office, curriculum and instruction and special ed and so forth. And then with also the carryover, because it's embedded into 716,000, we have the detail it here as well. So that's actually in a nutshell, all the items. I think this is really probably the most important thing for the general fund, how we ended last fiscal year, which is a plus. Any questions before I go into the other funds?
I think, board, if it's okay, let's let Song continue.
Okay, thank you. I do have a request to come back to general fund. How we're going to use this in a way they're really one-time savings, because they're not something that we cannot predict. This is going to be ongoing next year as well, right? Because although now it's going into almost a month now, into the first week of September, we could see a little bit of savings in other areas, but we don't know whether this will be continuing or not. So I do have a request, so I'll come back to ask, because we do need something for this, for the expenditure. This is adult ed fund. This is the next fund, Fund 11, is ended very well. Adult ed fund with ending fund balance of $1.9 million. It started at the beginning balance as $2.5 million, but then with 1.9, because there was already intended spending of capital outlay projects. Because of the block grant or the CAPE funds, there was a purpose to given us, and also the savings over the years. That's what it was. The biggest one you can see here is $455,764, but it's still a very healthy balance of 1.9. And the CAP fund still has a reserve of $499,125. The others are actually for other donations and fees and such, and so on. Next one is Child Development Fund. We talked about earlier, the general fund. This is a $95,000 contribution. As you can see, a second interim, it was 0 because we didn't really expect this. They were already doing very well in the past. So this is to provide to make sure that fund is actually in bounds, just to close the books. And when we come back in October, we'll have to reevaluate, reassess this fund and make appropriate adjustments or revisions. As you can see, when we adopted the budget in June, based on trend analysis, based on prior history, we didn't really put in anything. So now we have to reassess and will impact the general fund because we did not budget any contribution or any transfer from a general fund to this fund for 2021. Going to Fund 13, Cafeteria Fund, just real quickly, same thing here, just $95,000. At that time, we were projecting only a little bit over $9,800 transferred to make that fund balance, but it came up to be much higher than that. So adopted budget at that time, we actually projected a little bit more than before for a number of reasons. We relook at it very carefully, the sales and also the reimbursement claims from the state and the federal. We had projected a little bit over $73,000. So hopefully when all said and done, when we come back in October, there's not going to be a huge adjustment for cafeteria fund contribution from the general fund. Fund 14 is deferred maintenance. I think this is a little bit of good news for this one because we can see we're starting to build the reserve. We have talked about that a few times, especially when we closed the books 2 years ago, how low that it was. And there was before we passed Measure D, and we were really nervous about all the requests, all the needs that we were thinking at the time. So we said one of the goals was actually to build up this fund a little bit so that we can, any boilers, any, any pipes, fixing in the floors, that kind of thing, we'll have a little bit of backup. So this is the goal. I think we are a little bit doing, going in that direction. The general fund still transfer the same fixed amount like in prior years. 93,372, we're spending less, so which means we're building up the reserve. At some point, we can talk about this, whether, because we do have a routine restricted spending, and we have also Measure D. We'll catch anything in between not covered by those two, and we'll budget this, better. But the positive of that is that this fund balance is looking, is actually climbing. We wouldn't be so dire. It's only a few $1,000, would not be enough to pay for much. Fund 20 is not much. It's a post-employment benefits. It's about $6,000. It's the interest that's been built and set aside there. The board has stated that we're not going to transfer any funds into here for to pay for employees' retiree benefits. We'll just continue on with the pay as we go within the general fund. Fund 21, this is Measure A. When we issue the next, first series in the spring for Measure D, we'll show it here, but this is a Series C for Measure A, which is Education Technology Bond, which pays for all the, equipment or the technology needs of our students and teachers. And that was the primary purpose of this bond. $2 million with appropriate interest showing here. And then there is already a scale or a timetable or schedule every 6 months. Our team, IT instructor technology and our technology team coordinator together with the site techs, they meet very, very regularly, and they'll get the list and present it to the board every 6 months. It's all incorporated in here. And then it's reflected here as well. So last year we spent a little bit more of $650,000. As we know, of course, we came as a surprise the last 3.5 months because we need a lot of needs. So there you can see is almost $150,000, close to $200,000 more than expected. But it's good that we had a little bit of balance in here in this bond fund to pay for any extra. So last 4 to 6 weeks, we got what they call the CARES funds, the federal funds. To the extent that we can, we have been transferring a lot of their costs to the CARE funds instead of coming here. So if we couldn't do that, this would be a lot worse, and we wouldn't be able to absorb that anyway with all the extra costs that we had to buy, like Chromebooks, all the hotspots, and all the various needs that we had to meet. The last one is Fund 40 Capital Outlay Projects. This is actually rental income. The trustee path talk about the Monterey Bay Charter School. We still have a contract with them, a lease going on hopefully for a while, getting almost $300,000 plus interest. And this is what we spend. We spend the primary cost of that is the portables for the elementary schools. I believe it's 5 portables. And then plus a few other spending because of the gym floor and also rubber down. If you recall, we had to do some trenching analysis of the soil, the erosion under rubber down. So we had to spend some money from here. But at least, we try to be conserve as well, as much to the extent that we can. And you can see the reserve is actually going up a little bit. Not much, but it's something that's in the right direction. The other two is just more about consistent with prior years, just to trace. If anybody wants to see also through transparency, how what I call the SACS forms, which are standardized account code structure. There's like 100+ pages in the board packet. If somebody or the public wants to trace that, how is it from this going into those forms? Because the county would require us to be publicly to say, this is how you can do it. Doesn't mean that everybody would pick that up or would take that on, but that's just what is here to show, to trail how we can reconcile that from really a high level summary to all the semi level or the medium level details to all the details in our books, in our financial system. We have more details if anybody wants to know. And then this is also to show the restricted and unrestricted. It's important for us to delineate that because they are really for different purposes. Slide number 1, it shows just a high level combined, but it's important for us, critical for us to show the different levels. Now going back to the general fund, I talked about earlier as a request. So we have their extra because of the, all the savings in here. Coordinator Mejia talk about how, a network, right? We did all that. But now we have, of course, server problem. We have one, I believe that's, and I didn't mean to put Director Mejia on the spot, but if I remember correctly, there's one that is really breaking down. So it's really important for us to really take care of this as soon as possible because we just can't afford to have a server down. He's working vigilantly to get a really good quote and also working with companies. But I think it's a range of $25,000 and up. So with that, I just request for us to designate this, the savings to pay for that because, the bond fund earlier, you look at it, it's not much because there's more and more needs because of this into this distance learning. So this good time is really appropriate spending for this kind of thing. And if the board approves this and provide direction for us to allow to do that, come in October, we're going to include that in the budget. So I think that's it, the presentation. Open up for any questions.
Thank you so much, Song. I'll go ahead and go to the board, starting with Christy.
As always, Song, I so appreciate the tremendous amount of work you do to put this together. I love the coding of things, arrows, and you're very specific and slow rollout, so even people like me can understand. So I appreciate it. As far as having some of these unexpected monies coming in, I think it's wonderful, especially in lieu of the fact that the server is in big need right now. So I would be absolutely supportive of taking care of that. So good job, Song.
Thank you.
John Path?
No, I have no comments. Thank you.
Okay. Brian?
First of all, again, Song, what Christy had said, thank you. The amount of detail that you provided is astounding, and the explanation has been fantastic. It's good to know about the server. I'm also wondering too, is if with some of the excess that we have here, from what I've been hearing earlier in the meeting, that I think our staff, and as it relates to some of the technical issues, is feeling a little overwhelmed, and there was a recommendation that maybe we somehow bring somebody in, even on a temporary basis, to help alleviate some of that pressure. I'm wondering if we might be able to use some of this excess to address those needs as well. That was my immediate thought, at least.
Is that a question? Or?
Yes. Would that be possible? I'm sorry. That was like not quite a question, I know, but it was, yes, it is a question. Is that possible for some of this excess to be maybe directed towards finding somebody that could help alleviate the pressure on our support staff as we try to manage these technical issues that people are experiencing?
Would you like me to respond, President Crandall?
Please, thank you.
Certainly, I think the caution is always right. Trustee Johnson said temporary help, because this is actually one-time savings. We don't ongoing expenses. Certainly, we can look into it because you know, the excess funds, I think, is we can put into good use. The help, the need is now. We certainly can look into it. So in what format? So yes, well, you know, if the board gives us a direction, we can look into that.
Great, thank you.
John Walton?
Thanks, Debbie. Thank you, Song. I'm still a little concerned. I know, you know, it's always tempting to spend money on things, but I'm a little concerned that, you know, with the coronavirus and the need to buy more cleaning supplies and PPEs. I mean, how do you feel we stand in terms of money spent on that and reserves to address any of those needs in the future if we start to bring the students back to school and have to do more cleaning and things like that?
Right now, in terms, the care funds was presented at the last board meeting. That's a good point, because that's not going to last. A lot of them probably is a bulk of that will sunset on December 31st, and there is no word that we're going to continue to get any more money. So we have to be very, very careful. I think it's just a balance. It's something that really, if we can invest a few dollars, really bring a lot of benefits, we certainly would do that. And weighing at the same time, will not really will hurt the district fiscally. It's always is a balancing act. You know, I think you probably, well, you know, you just have to trust us to really probably to be very careful in, you know, in expending our funds. I don't think it will hurt our budget. We did budget somewhat, you know, for 2021, but, you know, nobody really can look out to the future that well. If this is going to be going for how long or how much more that we need to spend. But to the extent that we can, we'll bring back any, you know, any major impacts or major issues to the board, because I think it's always good to check in. The next round is going to be in October, and then there's another one is in December. So is that every 3 months we'll check in, we'll report to the board so that you'll be apprised. And then if any shifts on a major changes we need to make, we certainly will go to the board for direction.
Okay, thank you. No other questions?
Okay, thank you, John. So you may have already answered this song, but the education, the measure A, the education technology budget, our balance is 1.5.
Is it you mean the education technology bond?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm asking if that the 2021, the third column from the right, it says 1.5. Is that the balance currently?
Well, this was before the, before we know how much we're gonna end the year. So this is in a way is really a guess at that time in June, not knowing how much we'll end the year. But when we come back again in October, we'll revise this. This is a best estimate at that time. At the end of the day, it's going to be a little bit more because as you can see, we ended the year 2.135 as opposed to 2.116, 171. So a little bit better. Meaning another way to look at it is, yes, if we're going to spend this amount of money, we're going to have 1.5, but probably a little bit more because the plan is to spend about $650,000 per year, about $325,000 every semester. If we need a little bit of push, a little bit more in one semester, we always will go to the board and say, you know what, we're a little bit more in one semester. But at the end of the day, it's not going to be more than our planned because the $2 million is actually spread out over 3 years. It's a plan to spend to meet our needs, but also arbitrage issue because we cannot spend later than that. We cannot, and we can't afford to spend sooner because that means we have to go out to issue another series, and that's not in the plan. So hopefully I kind of answer your question, President.
Yeah, it's not in the plan, but it is doable if we have to, correct?
Yes, well, we have to work with our financial advisor because you know how our debt schedule, the bond, right, to pay off the debt over the years, because in the works of that is in spring, either March or April to issue the first series of Measure D. So we have to be very strategic. We don't overtax our bonding capacity or tax liability to our homeowners because where's the promise. And also it's a law as well. For X dollar per $100,000, we cannot go above that every year.
And I know this is not a discussion about the server, but did you mention about how much the server was going to cost? Do we know that?
Well, it's a rough estimate. Coordinator Mejia is trying to get the number, but I think he's working very, very hard to get under a lot of pressure to get as low as possible and the best quality as possible. Mm-hmm. We believe probably 25, I would say a range of $25,000 to $35,000.
Okay. For right now, I'm in favor of having that that balance reserved for support to staff and using the technology fund for the technology at this time. So that's not part of the approval tonight though, correct? We're just discussing it.
Right,
Okay.
Yes, its approval is to approve the closing of last year's books, but also discussing it to give us direction so that when we come back in October, it's not a surprise to put this amount in there in our budget, because we'll go in front of you to ask for approval of the budget, which will incorporate what you're giving us tonight for that specific item. It's not in the budget and it's not planned for. So, but it's something that we need. So our recommendation would be good use, giving one-time funds, and hopefully this is one-time expenses. We're not going to have a server is breaking down every year. So it would be good use, in our opinion.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that it was be good use, but I would still at this time like to see, for my opinion, to see that money reserved in our general fund for staff support. So before I bring it to public comment, Brian, did you have something else that you wanted to ask?
Well, two things now. When President Crandall, when you said reserved for staff support, are you talking tech, like I had mentioned, tech support, or something different?
Oh, whatever we need, whatever is decided that is needed most,
Okay.
but to support them.
Okay. And then secondly, and this is a bit related only because Song, you'd mentioned that we had some utility savings, and then I was thinking back to something that Matt Kelly had presented quite a few months back about this landscaping project, if you remember that, and that was going to save us some money in utilities because we were going to be going off, we were going to be losing a lot of the water use, and it sounds like our water use actually increased. So it just kind of popped into my brain, and I thought, well, since we're there, I'm going to ask. Whatever happened to that project?
I think, if I recall, I think is it the landscape project at the middle school?
Yes, correct. I should have known where it
Yeah,
was.
the requirements, I think, is Director Kelly probably can help. I believe it was because we couldn't, the requirements, requirements could not be met for whatever reason that we didn't proceed with the project. Director Kelly, if you, can you add anything to that?
I know that came out of left field, Matt. I'm sorry.
This was a while back, but you have a good
Well, we
memory.
didn't get the grant.
I thought we already had the grant was the thing, because we already had the plan and all of that too. It was already kind of laid out what we were going to do.
All right, there I am.
Hey.
No, it's from Cal-Am. They didn't give us the grant.
They did. They backed out of the grant. Yes. The first reason they backed out, Cal-Am, was that he didn't think we could get the project done in time, so he decided that it'd be better off to give the money to someone else. And then he wanted to look at this year to do it, so we started going through submitting the plans and everything else for this year. They did a water audit on water use and decided that we actually do a good job of limiting how much water that we use already, that they couldn't show enough savings to give us the money for the project now.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, unfortunately it did fall through, but anyway.
Okay, I appreciate the update on that.
Okay.
That's popped into my head off and on for the last like 2 months, and then I always keep forgetting to ask about it. So now.
Yeah, that I should have updated you guys. It kind of happened when we were going to shelter in place. I just kind of forgot about it. So I apologize for not updating you.
Oh, good. Thank you, Mr. Kelly.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open up for public comment if there are any. We'll allow a little bit of time for that. Okay, I'm seeing no questions right away. I'll go ahead and bring it back to the board. So just to summarize, board, the action here is to hopefully approve this unaudited actuals as it was presented, but also on the side, give guidance on your opinion on that net savings of the I think it was 236,000 to be used for the server or not. So I just want to, unless you have other questions also, I would just like to know your feeling on that savings. Christy? Hold on.
I vote to I would vote to approve this. And as far as the savings, I do agree that there should be support. I would say in terms of technology, and if they found needs in other areas, that might show up, that they could bring that back as well. But for now, I would tend to say towards technology, since tonight that's been voiced by both teachers and community, that's difficult. And the tech department, just the amount of work seems a bit overwhelming currently.
Just to be clear, also, Christy, the item is for a server. So
yeah, I don't know that I have a specific opinion that it could be used for or not a server. I would tend to, if Song thinks that's the best use of the money right now, I would go with her.
Okay. John Path?
Well, the action in front of us is to approve the unaudited, or the unaudited actuals for the year. And the bringing something back for whether it's a server or a person for money that we feel has to be spent before the end of December is a completely separate item. I wouldn't confabulate them. So let's take the action that's in front of us.
Yeah, and I'm not asking, Song is actually asking for guidance. I'm not asking for that to be part of the motion or anything. I'm just asking to have, so Song knows what how the board feels.
Tomorrow,
so if you don't have an opinion,
she has to fix the roof on, Robert Down because a tree collapsed on it. So I'm not going to restrict that. Whatever they need to bring back, bring back.
Okay. Brian?
I'm fine with what she's presented, of course, too. I also don't, for what it's worth, I don't have any kind of issue with 25 grand towards a server that sounds like it's breaking down. I do want to note that the difference between 25, which was the first number that got thrown out, and then we brought it up again. We went from 20 to a range of 25 to 35 grand is a substantial difference. But if it's something that's breaking down, it's that whole big ball of wax tech, I think, is an issue that's causing people various problems as we try to do distance learning effectively. So I've seen over the years often us dipping into Measure A funds for things that I thought were maybe less worthy. So I'm okay to take, to get a server up and running, not taking it from Measure A and taking it from here. I'm totally fine with that. I know it's an item to discuss later, but that's my opinion, at least as it relates to spending money on the server.
Thank you. Song, did you want to add something?
Right. It just, maybe I failed to clarify this. It's just, it is breaking down. It's just a matter of how we're going to pay for it. We look at Fund 21, which is a technology bond. We spent, earlier we showed that we spent more than what we planned for 1920. We cannot dip any further. We have a little bit of amount left, but I think it's dangerous if we just completely spend it, because this $2 million issue was supposed to be to last for 3 years. So that's the suggestion. I mean, it's something that we have to pay. I think the server is just breaking down from what I heard.
John Walton, anything further?
Sure. I agree with John Paff. I mean, we have a surplus, and I think we should give the staff the latitude to spend it on the most important things.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to make a motion to accept the acceptance of the 2019-20 unaudited actuals financial report.
Second. Oh, good Paff.
Was that John Paff? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I have a motion by Debbie Crandall, second by John Paff. Roll call vote.
Trustee
Please.
Crandall?
Aye.
Trustee Dawson?
Aye.
Trustee Paff?
Aye.
Trustee Swanson?
Aye.
Trustee Walton?
Aye.
Student advisory?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. That passes 5-0. And Gabby, I'm sorry I didn't ask for your opinion. Do you have an opinion on the budget?
Thank you, but no, I have no opinion. Thanks, though.
Okay. Okay, and so I think, go ahead, Song.
I just want to say it would be remiss of me not to really thank our people all the way from the sites, secretaries, support staff, putting the purchase orders, getting the invoices in on time. During this time, it was, to say a challenge is an understatement to get us to a business office. I mean, they do all the way from taking a picture of the, of the invoice, packing slips, and how to, and so on, and then working with our business services team to get really a closing on time. Is actually a week earlier than usual. Normally we have to do it by September 15, and it's tonight, September 14, we're presenting the final result to the board. So I just want to thank the, not just business service team, but also the entire staff working together on this.
Great, thank you. And you have, I think, the majority to use that money as you see fit.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is board calendar, future meetings. Dr. Porson, is there any change to the calendar?
Madam President, we do have one adjustment to make. It is a change. The special meeting that we have coming up in September is noted as September 26th. It should read September 24. So it was just a typo in there, but we need to approve it to approve the change in there. So if you would, that'd be great.
I thought we took that special meeting off. I don't see it on here.
No, that's the one that we for the
that was on the 26th. Now it's Thursday the 24th.
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
I'm okay. Leave it at the 26th.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying it doesn't say special board meeting anymore.
It's not. It's a regular board meeting.
It's a regular board meeting. I'm sorry. Forgive me.
Okay.
I didn't mean special. Yeah.
So are we changing it 26 or leaving it, or changing it to the 24th or leaving
24? Yeah, 24. That's the one that Director Silva needs to pass the. She has a public hearing on the 17th, and then she needed a meeting to pass that to approve the item. So
before.
Correct, before the end of September.
Okay, so the 26th would allow us to do that.
Yeah, but the 26th is a Saturday.
Yeah. Oh. It says Thursday on here. Sorry. Okay.
Yes,
so
yes.
24, which is a Thursday. Got it. Okay.
Sorry,
I make a motion. I don't board any feedback on that. I think we're good.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the board calendar future meetings as amended, which is correcting the Thursday, September 26th regular board meeting to Thursday, September 24th.
Correct.
Public comment?
Is there any public comment on this item? Okay, bring it back. I made a motion.
Second.
Okay, motion by Debbie Crandall, second by Christy Dawson. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Crandall?
Aye.
Trustee Dawson?
Aye.
Trustee Paff?
Aye.
Trustee Swanson?
Aye.
Trustee Walton?
Aye.
Student advisory?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That passes 5-0. So we are on information discussion now. And before we get to our COVID update, I think Dr. Parsh, you said it would be fairly brief, but I just want to make a note that we have the counseling presentation. I do not want to run out of time for them. So just with that said, go ahead, Dr. Parsh, the COVID-19 update.
You got it. I'll make it brief.
No
Actually,
pressure.
No, it's fine. Actually, we're in a moment right now where the train has left the station, and we're really just kind of now just keeping a close eye and making sure everything is where it needs to be and making some adjustments as we go. There are a few things that are on the docket from the state. Number one, as you know, the governor released his most recent guidance. He's now started into the colored tiered model for reopening of industry, including schools. Monterey County currently, I believe, is on the purple, or the basically we're a long way away from being allowed to open up in the stage that we're in. He's setting parameters in terms of when we can begin considering looking at that. We will have a link, I believe, on the update again tomorrow. But this is for all Monterey County. So at this stage of the game, we're pretty sure we're going to be in distance learning for a while, unless something drastic changes, but we will keep an eye on that as we go. Another piece that is putting a lot of pressure on schools across the state. I did write a letter to the California Department of Ed and then also some advocacy groups around this issue. There's still the state requirement for teachers to log specifically participation and attendance on a daily fashion per pupil, as well as given an associated time value for assignments. The guidance from the state is still pretty fuzzy. The requirement to now put it into place, and there was a template that was issued, but ultimately even the auditors are still kind of waiting for more guidance from the state, because the auditors are the one that will be responsible for assuring that districts are following this requirement. This is just creating consternation across the board, because it's a very onerous task and people are already really very overloaded. The letter that I sent to the CDE, as well as to the through AXA to the State Board of Ed, is to really make clear putting too much on our teachers right now is going to overload the system. We're getting things rolling, and what we really need right now is a little bit of time to get adjusted to what's happening. I think in response also from our end, the administrative team, and in particular our technology team and Director Binder, is working on a way to make this as simple as possible for our teachers, even to the extent of being able to push out some solutions that make it very easy for teachers to verify the attendance, participation rate, and time value for assignments. I have given direction to go slow and easy with this so that we don't overload ourselves, and we're working on that currently. We'll be talking more with the teachers and the administration as we move forward, but I wanted to bring this up because it is an issue that's been talked about throughout the county. I think we are fulfilling the spirit of the law, if not the letter, in regards to the work that our teachers are doing. Teachers are keeping track of attendance. As we've noted in a lot of our reports, we're almost having 100% attendance rate across the district. It's pretty amazing. Very few districts in the county are even close to that. So pretty proud of what they're doing. And the teachers are doing a great job of logging what they need to log, getting assignments taken care of, and so forth. So we're going to be working on that requirement. I will report more on that as we kind of get more clarity from the state. But just want to assure you that the administration is trying to make it as less onerous as possible for our teachers. We had some comments earlier today regarding flexibility for parents that have special circumstances. I want to reiterate to our families listening, please talk with your site administrator if you have particular needs. All of our administrative staff are working diligently to accommodate needs as they show up for parents, and they're working closely with teachers. And our teachers are doing a really, I think, a great job in responding to the needs of parents. And so if there are particular needs, please talk to your principal so we can allow for some of that flexibility. And as we know, then we can help address the issue. There is flexibility that's allowable to a certain extent, and we're trying to take advantage of that through the systems that we've put into place. And I think the only other piece I wanted to add on that, we as a county office, the Monterey County Office of Education has been really keeping us pretty well posted on what's happening on the state level. And we're trying to get that information out as much as we can. I'll try to get more information out to the parents via the update. But right now we're kind of in a weird flux with some of the guidance that's coming because it's not very, very clear. We have 2 or 3 workshops coming up next week that are webinars from State Superintendent of Public Instruction to give us some more clarity as well. So just going to ask, as parents have already been giving us a little more patience as we get more information so we can accurately interpret what it is we're supposed to be doing. But all in all, I think the system is working well, and we're trying to catch errors as we go. And the lines are open, so please communicate with our sites as much as you can to help us address issues. I'm happy to answer any questions. That's kind of what's going on right now.
Thank you, Dr. Porras. Board, we get updates often, but do you have any specific questions for tonight? Christy?
No, thank you so much for filling us in about that stuff. And I know as a board, we've discussed how thankful we are to all the staff and how diligently everybody's working. We're keenly aware, and it's ongoing and hopefully gets less overwhelming over time. So thank you, Dr. Porras.
You're welcome.
John Path?
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate the updates. And two items. One is one of the things that was mentioned earlier was potential to have additional assistance, technical assistance And while that's probably on a future agenda item, I think that would be, first of all, it's temporary. It's not a full-time position. Probably bears some looking into if we're running into staffing and people being pulled in too many situations. So that's definitely COVID related.
I will say, Trustee Paff, that we did assign 3 additional hours to one of our techs, Raymond DeVost, whose sole job is to be assisting. He will be able to provide more support already on some of those tech issues. So we've already moved on that this week. So that's also been of assistance.
Okay. I have another item. It'll come up a bit later though. Thanks.
Brian?
Kind of back to the tech issue again too, and it's more, I'm curious as to whether or not there is a tally rather than what the exact tally might be. But do we have any idea of, I think like what's the term for it? Like not a repair ticket, but whenever an issue comes up, are we actually keeping a running tally on how many per day we're looking at, and is it varying kind of from site to site to site?
I think Coordinator Mejia can speak to that. I think we're planning to talk a little bit about that on the Chromebook discussion coming up. But yes, there's a ticket system. We do have, we're able to keep track of all that. And the tech team is doing a pretty good job of managing that as well. And we've encouraged people, parents, to use that ticket system in lieu of asking teachers directly to help resolve issues. And all of the site techs are responding pretty rapidly. But we do keep track of that, and we can get some of that information to you as well.
Great. I'll hold for the Chromebook discussion then. Thank you.
John Walton?
Questions?
Okay, thank you. Is there any public comment about this item? There's no hand up right now, but Barbara Martinez, I thought I saw your hand, so if you intended for it to be up, I don't know how you're going to tell me, but I don't see your hand up. Okay, thank you. We'll bring it back. Thank you for the update, Dr. Portis.
You're most welcome.
Very good timing, too. Okay. We are now going to have a presentation by PGUSD Counseling Plan supporting social and emotional needs of students and families through distance learning. And I very much appreciate you giving us this presentation tonight. Is this going to be Claire? Are you presenting this? Oh, let me unmute you. Go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. You'll also need to unmute our wonderful team of school counselors.
I will work on that right now.
All right.
We'll help with that, Madam President. Go ahead and.
Great. So you had asked for an update on how our counselors are supporting the social and emotional needs of our students and families. And it's also required in the learning and continuity plan that we worked on with Ani that we also report how staff are being supported. And of course, this is a work in progress, but right off the top, the counselors built a fabulous 3-tiered program of counseling, social and emotional support at all the sites. And I'd like to introduce them, and each one will talk about what they're doing on their site. But before we launch into that, I wanted to tell you how phenomenal it has been to have added the 2 extra days, whereas Zoe Roach and Sonda Fruden go up to the middle school, and they get to follow students of concern. And it's been absolutely incredible because those students are getting much more support and case management. And the fact that Zoe and Sonda know those families from elementary really, really has been incredible in providing continuity of care. I want to thank you for that. It really, really has worked in a beautiful way. So with that, we'll start with Zoe Roach sharing with us. Actually, Zoe and Sonda will share the elementary program that they have developed.
And are we sharing it? Does somebody have the slides?
Mandy should have them.
Okay. Don't scare me, Claire. Hi, I'm Zoe Roach. I'm the counselor at Forest Grove Elementary School. And as Ms. Davies mentioned, I'm also middle school. And my fabulous partner is Sonda Fruden. And I think we'll get that slideshow rolling and we can tell you about the tiers of support at the elementary level.
There we go.
Great.
Okay.
Right. And I think you can, PGUSD's counseling plan. I think Sonda was going to start us off here.
Okay. So I'm Sonda Fruden, the counselor at Robert Down, and then one day up at the middle. So to begin, our Tier 1 support, which means Tier 1 means for the whole school. We, of course, do Toolbox with Mr. Rogaman and Ms. Tobin at RHD and Mr. Rogaman at Forest Grove. The Counselor Toolbox core curriculum, teacher-led online etiquette and distant learning success, teacher-led class meetings, counselor and or teacher-led class caring circles. If you don't know what caring circles, I think you do. We were at the board meeting last year when we showed you what caring circles are all about, and we're offering those this year as well. TK to 5 caring circles, video counselor class lessons on character traits, Mind Up, Toolbox, resiliency, friendship, a Let's Talk book group, which is going to be a book group on inclusion, diversity, and community connection. Those are all for whole school. And then we'll go to the next one. The next slide, please. Who has control?
And Mandy or Jonathan? There we
Okay,
go.
thank you. So Tier 2 is students who need just a little bit of additional support. And that includes small psychoeducational groups, which really during distant learning is going to be focused more on social skill development, emotional awareness, and emotional regulation. And then individual student check-ins and individual student sessions, parent consultations and referrals. I've been talking with many parents, more than typical right now. And then the new PGUSD student online group. And then Tier 3 is the highest need students. So those are those students that we refer to outside resources. And we will continue our targeted interventions online with those same students. And then I'm going to pass it on to my partner, Zoe.
So in the area of parent supports, we've been running various groups. We've done some new to the Monterey Peninsula area groups for parents to kind of, it's a really hard time to move and transition your student during distance learning. So we've been doing some groups on that, welcoming them, as well as kindergarten families, parent groups, specific for those concerns and questions and thoughts that they have. We've done some just drop-in virtual coffee with the counselors just to make sure parents know that we're available to them. We're planning parent education Zoom workshops in conjunction with the adult school. Potential topics might include supportive practices at home with distance learning, time management, managing stress and anxiety. Just this week, we presented the Toolbox social emotional learning at-home guidance for parents and recorded that, so that will be up on the website for anybody to access in all that free time we have, right? Individual parent consultations, as Sonda mentioned, were available for parents to reach out through email. We can do Zoom meets or Google Meets and of course, phone conversations. And then another big support is referrals to outside resources, is being able to link people up in the community. And then with staff, it really is a year-long process of professional development in areas of mental health, you know, and once we really dig in and see where those needs are, we'll be working on this continuously at the year. It's not just a one-shot deal. referral system for students in need, you know, making sure that that the staff knows how to get in touch with us.
I'll go just in case she locked up.
Not engaging, and then being able to provide that outreach to them. Informing parents on how to access counseling sessions and mental health resources and support. That's another, we've all been working on our websites, right? And putting the resources up, making sure that people know how to get in touch with us. And then weekly staff caring circles. I don't know if we're at the weekly part yet. Everybody's pretty busy these days, but that's definitely a support in there too for staff to be able to share out. Thank you.
That's our elementary.
Yeah.
And then, okay.
Oh, and I think Janie was gonna, there she is.
Yeah, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I actually wanted to thank the board, Claire, too, for Sonda and Zoe. I feel like we have a counseling department at the middle school for the first time ever, and it's fantastic. I mean, we collaborate a lot. We talk to each other several times a week about kids. We talk about our program and how to improve it. They're just a gift. And we had support in the past from other agencies, but they're family and they know everyone. They know our teachers. I just can't say enough. So thank you so much for the support. Okay, so about the middle school, Tier 1, whole school support. Classroom instruction on tips for success in distance learning. That's provided through the classroom teacher. Teachers actually met and talked about best practices and appropriate grade level practices. And so it's happening every day in the classroom. I know our teachers also have been emphasizing building community in their classrooms. Our teachers weekly provide character strong lessons through advisory on Mondays, and that's continuing from last year. Those are the teacher-led class meetings. Our teachers support our students in numerous ways. You can see all the different ways listed, depending on the teacher's comfort level and personality. They use different techniques. Some use meditation, tapping, check-ins. So the students know or have an opportunity to have some support time with their teachers. Regarding counselor classroom introductions, Zoe created a video that is posted on our Google Classroom. The middle school counseling department has a Google Classroom, and Zoe's video is great. She introduces us, and then she also talks about why you might want to see a school counselor, you know, what our roles are, and then also how kids can get in touch with us, the various ways they can get in touch with us. Regarding promoting our program, our groups that we're providing are listed in all of our teachers' classrooms. And then on the school website, under the counseling page, you can also find the groups, the weekly groups that we're providing. Let's see, counselor-led Google Meets. So we've created, Zoe and Sandra really have created some groups. The one that's open to all students as a drop-in is called Breaker Breaks. It's on Mondays. We have a 6th grade group, and we have a 7th and 8th grade group that's on Mondays, as I said, and I drop in when I can. We need to build these groups, so we got to get the word out. We have to brainstorm how to get more kids to show up, but we're working on it. Regarding counselor and wellness resources, we post information on our counselor website for students and parents. Also, students have a Google check-in form. It's a doc that they fill out, and we get email updates when any student fills out the form. And sometimes the students need follow-up, and sometimes they're just letting us know how they're doing. But it's just one way that we're able to, you know, interact with them, find out what they're thinking and how they're feeling. Our other doc that's available is, it's called the PGMS appointment request form. And those are students who are actually requesting appointments with us. And then we get the emails and we coordinate who's going to contact the student. Regarding the new PGMS student groups, we have a new group called Movin' and Groovin' that also meets on Mondays. last week we coordinated with Ms. Costales' leadership kids, and we had leadership students be part of our groups, and they're helping us brainstorm ways to connect with our newcomers. And we intend to utilize leadership as much as we can, actually, to partner with us to help welcome the new students and help them feel part of this community during this weird distance learning time. Individual Google and Zoom check-ins with students, we're doing that. We're planning to have groups that will be coming when we figure out how to best group our kids, and we'll provide services for them in small groups. We're at the middle school also providing parent consultations and referrals. We're starting our student study teams and 504 meetings. And then Mr. Tavani is refining our referral system from last year for our students of concern Google Doc that all of our staff has access to. This way we can target students who need support, and we can assign them to the appropriate staff members. So tier 3, also our highest need students. We refer to outside resources as well. Monterey County Behavioral Health Services still available for kids with IEPs. And we're continuing targeted intervention online for students who need it, as well as parent consultations and referrals. And then lastly, regarding parent supports, we're doing coffee with the counselors. Once a month, we're providing 2 times that parents can drop in, a daytime time as well as an evening time, so we can connect with parents who are interested in meeting with us. Again, individual parent consultations under parent support. We're hoping to partner again with the adult school for parent education Zoom workshops. And then we're also providing wellness and mental health information through our counselor classroom. And then under staff, we have we started to do a little bit of staff development in the areas of mental health. So we provided a presentation, 2 presentations last year, one regarding self-care and the other was trauma-informed practice. So we're hoping to do more of those. Regarding the referral system for students in need through the counselors, we have a Google Doc that our staff can fill out. So our staff can contact us. They do contact us through email, the Google Doc, and the SOC form. And then, of course, we continue to identify students who aren't engaged and provide outreach. So thank you, and on to the high school.
Hi, my name is Michelle Cadigan, and I'm the outreach counselor at Pacific Grove High School as well as Community High. So I'm going to go over our tiers of support. Tier 1, we have the Counseling Google Classroom that I'm constantly updating and making sure we're pushing out information to the students. We do have a counseling Instagram that I'm trying to share positive messages with the students as well, since we know that some of those high schoolers live attached to their phone. We have open office hours, and so students can contact us via email, phone, Zoom, or Hangouts. We can set up appointments, or it can be during a drop-in basis. On our Google Classroom, we do have a student check-in form as well as an appointment form, just like Ms. Lawrence has at the middle school. We did find that when we started those up, a lot of students used them. And so we're hoping that that picks back up this semester as well. We do share resources both on the Google Classroom and anytime we can with the family regarding mental health or COVID-19. And there's a plethora of information under mental health. We do take teacher referrals, parent consultations, and referrals for all the students, classroom introductions, and then sometimes classroom lessons as well. Thank you. For tier 2, we're providing the separate supports for targeted groups, so different special populations and small groups of students that require more services, whether that's EL or SED. We're providing the specific needs for them. We have SSTs when needed and 504s as well. And then we do individual check-ins with students, and those can be more regular than,
Michelle?
Go for it.
I'm sorry, would you mind letting the attendees know what those acronyms are?
Yes, of course. Sorry.
Thanks.
EL is for our English learner population. They have a class, but we also make sure that they're receiving the services that they need on campus. And then SED is social emotional or social economically disadvantaged. And so sometimes we're having specific financial aid nights for them, FAFSA information, scholarships. And so I'm trying to make sure I'm catching those students before they think they can't afford something. And then that also requires a lot of collaboration on staff. For tier 3, we have, again, some of our 504s. We do refer out when we have students that need more therapeutic services than we can offer. Sometimes when there's credit issues or a different setting needed, we do refer to community high school, and then continued and more regular check-ins for our tier 3 kids.
And what are the 504s again?
So it's a aspect of general education, but it shows that a student has a disability that hinders their education. Or no, it's not an aspect of special education. It is an aspect of general education, I apologize. But the student does have a disability that hinders their ability to access education. And so that could be anxiety, that could be ADD, and we make accommodations so that they can still meet the requirements of their classes without things being modified.
Thank you.
And so it is section 504 under IDEA. Nope, sorry, Claire, I'm sorry. It's section 504. So we just call them 504s for short.
Thank you.
So now I'm going to move on to community high. There are classroom lessons. I work pretty closely with Sherry and Brad to make sure that sometimes when a topic is coming up or there's a specific thing that needs to be talked about, we are talking about it. Individual sessions, regular and upon request, depending on what a student is going through. Open office hours for those kids. I also invite them to the counseling Google Classroom and the counseling Instagram. I share a bunch of resources with them. They also have some resources on campus that have been fantastic, like the Ohana program came and did a workshop with those students, and it was wonderful. We do have some students with 504 plans on that campus. I take teacher referrals. I'm working with parents, consulting, referrals, all of that stuff at Community High as well, and they do use the student check-in form to let me know how they are doing. For parents of our high school students, I'm sharing resources. Again, I have open office hours for consultation as well as the rest of my counseling group. We accept referrals from parents. We host information nights, whether that be on stress or different paths to college. But we do offer a lot of information for those parents and tailor it to the needs that are showing up right then. For the staff, when we started back up, I did do a small talk on mental health for professional development, shared a lot of resources with them and strategies on how to help the students in their classroom to meet the social emotional needs. And we have a wonderful staff, so I'm constantly collaborating with them to meet the needs of individual students. I reviewed the referral process and feel like it's been working really well. So I'm excited that we have a staff that's very in tune and can notice when a kid is struggling or acting differently. And so we're working with the staff to make sure that we have that open communication all the time. So here's just contact information for our counselors. So Sonda, Zoe, and Janie, and their email addresses, and a cute picture of Zoe and Sonda. And then your high school counseling group as well, with their roles and their email addresses. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you so much for this presentation. I'm going to bring it to the board if we have any questions or comments, as well as public. But part of the reason this request was asked for this presentation is so parents know about this, right? You guys are doing great work, and you always do. But I mean, you just switched how, as everybody has, how you do it. And I just want to make sure that everybody knows that it's available and that how to contact you. So your presentation is perfect. And I was just wondering if, and you touched a little bit on this, and I guess whoever wants to answer, but is there a plan on like a regular communication that might go out to parents regarding these services?
Well, one thing, and I'll just speak from the elementary and then I can have other people pipe in, but on our Robert Down and Forest Grove websites, there is a counseling tab on those websites, and that directs you to everything you need to know about counseling. It directs you to the social emotional learning curriculum tools. It directs you to our referrals, our permission slips, how to reach us directly. And it also is a resource for parents just in terms of finding books on any number of topics that they might need for their children. We have them all categorized. We're adding things to those websites. It's called the Friendship Flyer, and it can be easily accessed on that website. So those things are constantly being updated and have direct information on what we are doing all the time. But we also are constantly sending out reminders to parents because we found that, the best solution to getting parents to participate in any of our coffees or anything like that is for them just to get something like a text through directly from the school on when those are happening, because that seems to be the quickest and easiest way. But they're also on our calendars on our websites as well.
And I'll just add that in the spring during distance learning, the middle school put out a weekly social emotional article. And I don't know that we'll do it weekly because we don't want to overload everybody. They're getting so many emails, but we're looking forward to starting back up with our monthly kind of counselor's corner in the middle school newsletter.
Great.
We also have a tab on the high school's website. Did I cut somebody off? I'm sorry. Okay. We have the same tab on the high school's website, so the parents can access all of that. And between the three of us, we do send out a lot of information via email. And then also, if we feel like it would fit with admin, we share that information with admin when they blast out emails to the parents. Again, not to overwhelm them with multiple emails, but we do share information once it becomes aware. And so whether that's on a workshop or like an off-campus workshop, or something we're doing in the counseling department, or a new resource, we are sharing that with the parents.
Great. Thank you. Janie, you had something? Let me unmute you. Hold on a second. There you go.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to add that Sean Roach will send out a blast to parents when we have something to send to them for the week. So I do like what Sonda said about the website, and I probably need to work on the middle school counseling page and add more information, just general information, so that parents will know what we're doing on an ongoing basis. So that was good to hear from Sonda. But for weekly information or something that's happening right away, Sean does send out a blast to parent emails.
Great. Thank you. Board, any other questions or comments? Christy?
Yeah, I mean, obviously last year it was so fortuitous that we were able to expand counseling for the district. And I think everyone's concern, not only in our community, but in the entire country, is social emotional well-being for our students in this particular time. So a huge thank you to everything you guys are doing to make our kids' lives richer during this really tough time. So thank you so much. And this presentation's just wonderful and really seconds my feeling about how much good work you guys are doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. John Path?
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with Christy. Thank you very much. Thanks for the update tonight. And thank you for the expanded efforts in pretty much everything you're doing. I have some questions related to, I guess, how things are going. What are you seeing? How different, how atypical are we right now with the reactions from the students? I guess I'd like to know, are you seeing different inputs and requirements from parents that we should be thinking about other than tech, and similar with staff other than tech? I'm not sure how much staff would think to come anyway, but also the availability seems very high. Are you seeing more demand, and to some extent is it high risk demand? And then I have one kind of question that's separate from those.
So I'll start, and then I'm talking to a lot of families that I haven't talked to before, and those are families who are just, like my own family, two working parents and doing distant learning at home. It's stressful, it's challenging, and a lot of people are wondering, how am I going to do this? A lot of parents, the coffees, even though we don't have huge numbers of parents coming to those because everyone's too busy, the ones that do are basically all saying the same things, like, this is hard. And I think reassurance and knowing that they're not alone, and that we're all doing the best we can, and that they're doing the best they can, and then just kind of talking it out with other parents and exchanging ideas about how to make things a little easier, how to organize space or things like that, can be really helpful. I'm seeing a lot of anxiety in a lot of students that typically might not manifest that way. Some kids, the younger ones especially, like kinder and first, there's a few, I'm impressed when I go into the classrooms how well students are doing, and I just have to say, it's incredible. I'm having a harder time than a lot of these kids with this. I can't get over the resilience of children and how they can sit there and listen and be a part of this new system of learning, even little ones. But I will say there are some where learning on a computer is just going to be tough. It's just not going to be the method of learning that comes naturally for them. So those are those families that we're trying to really reach and support. The population I'm most concerned about is our high-risk students. We don't have access to talking to them. They aren't in spaces that allow for counseling to occur, and they're not always showing up to those sessions. I've been talking to Mr. Keller. We talked today in our SPED meeting about some thoughts about that, and I think you guys talked about that in admin. So we're trying to work on some solutions on that, but that's really the biggest concern for me as a counselor, is that I feel like I'm doing a good job with the general population. The best that can be done in these circumstances, but I think that our high-risk students are it's just going to be tough. We're doing the best we can. We're all collaborating, but it's going to be tough.
And John, I'll add, yes, it is very different topics. We're not dealing as much with social skills or drama or anything like that, or separation anxiety. That's not an issue we're dealing with right now. We're dealing more with a lot of frustration and loneliness and motivation to be home alone doing your work. So yeah, it really is a shift in a lot of issues, but big feelings, lots of big feelings.
Thank you.
I would just add that at the middle school, our teachers are amazing. I can't tell you how many of them email me when they're concerned about a student, and they'll ask me, well, how do you think I should handle this? And we'll figure it out. And then I'll say, get back to me, let me know how it goes, to see if I need to follow up. So there's a lot of direct communication with our teachers to me. What I'm hearing is that kids don't want to show themselves on camera at the middle school. and they don't have to. That's not a requirement, although we encourage them to, because then we know they're engaged. But if they're not using their camera, they have to be able to show that they are engaged. They have to, answer questions or type in the chat. They have to show that they're actually there. But that's not something you deal with in person, obviously. And we know middle school kids are so self-conscious and so worried about themselves. And here they are in this little square among many other squares on the screen. And that's a whole nother level of anxiety. I think it's also early days. I think we're just starting to see the kids who are not doing their work. The names are coming. They're starting to come. I'm thinking of one student in particular. I set up a Google Meet with a teacher and the student, and he was willing to come. He said he was willing to come, and he didn't show up. And then I've set up several Google Meets with the student, and he doesn't show up. So this is a high-risk student, somebody we're concerned about, and we'll just keep trying. But it feels so uncharted. We're all doing something very unique and different, and we just have to. That's why I'm so grateful for my colleagues, because it does take more than one person to figure out, well, what can we do for this? What can we do for this particular student? So anyway.
Thank you.
And I agree with, or I second what Janie's saying as far as working with the staff. I've had quite a few emails just in the last day or two from teachers who are noticing changes in some of their students or answers to different prompts or icebreaker questions, and asking how to proceed and what resources can I share with them, and can you help step in with this one, and working with them. And we are seeing students, some of our students that we recognize have had issues in the past, but there are some with newer cases coming up. A concern that was being brought to our attention in the counseling department was new students to the district and getting to know other students, and how can they do that if they're not on campus. And so then we had some ideas in our cabinet meetings, and I shared some of those with Dr. Hagquist, and it sounds like they're talking about it with the leadership class, and I'm really excited to see what they can do and how I can help support that as well. But we are seeing it's a lot of frustration and lack of motivation and wanting to be on campus. Those seem to be the biggest issues coming up with a lot of our students, and whether the teachers or parents are catching it, we're being told of them. And so we're reaching out to the students, and yes, sometimes kids don't show, but we're trying our hardest in these uncharted waters to make sure that those kids know that even if they're not ready to talk, that people are there for them, and they have a team that cares about them. And if we're not the answer, or they're not comfortable with us, then we provide them resources to find what they are comfortable with.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to just kind of pause for 1 second. Gabby, it's typical that our meetings sometimes do go pretty late. So if you need to drop off and go to bed, or if you want to study or whatever, please feel free. You can drop off anytime, okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, who's next? Brian, any questions or anything?
I don't have any questions, just an appreciation for all of you and everything that you do. I'm glad that we were able to come up with some additional funding to get this expanded before the pandemic. I cannot imagine having to deal with that in the middle of all this. So no, just that I appreciate all of you and everything that you do, and even more so knowing that it's like, God, some of these kids and some of the adults and some of the staff that need help too, that you're there and providing tools and outreach for all of them. And these are things that they're new problems, right? Or for some people, they're new problems, and people are having to face things that they've never had to face before. It's really difficult. So thank you. Thank all of you for all of the extra efforts, because I know you're all going above and beyond every single day.
Thank you, Brian. John Walton, anything?
Just thank you. You all do a great job. Both my sons have benefited from talking with you all from time to time. So thank you for that.
Thank you. John Paff, you had something else you wanted to ask?
I did. Is Ms. Paris online?
Yeah, let me unmute her.
The question goes particularly to the second job, which is educational counseling, and what is college counseling looking like right now, which is not the social emotional, which is kind of in the crux of the presentation, but is important for 1/4 of the high school, I think.
Oh, definitely. Well, what's funny, you know, that there's so much uncertainty and anxiety in a normal year with college application in the senior year and going about that. And the timelines with the colleges have remained pretty much the same. The applications are opening in the same day. The financial aid is, you know, opens in October. So along the lines, we're moving along that track with the information, getting it out in the way that we normally would. But what I see is that the anxiety level, while it's usually high because it's stressful to put yourself out there and have some things that you really want some outcomes and wait to see what happens, but it's all shifting way earlier now. So for example, the CSU applications don't even open until October 1st. And I'm just getting a lot of questions, you know, about when can I start? Can I do this now? Scholarships, more than ever, people already asking about scholarships. Typically that comes much later in the year. So what I'd normally be doing at this time was have individual visits with every senior. And I started off trying to do that, but I don't have access. It's a lot longer to meet online. So what I did was open it up upon request, at least at this point. And so probably had about 15 meetings with people that, you know, they had these questions about scholarships and different things. I'll say, let's just meet. One of the positives has been that almost every time a parent's been included. Now, during this regular school year, when I meet with them on campus, there's never a parent there. And the student has the option, but when this particular subject, parents really, you know, appreciate, they want to be there. So almost every meeting I've had with a student has gone on quite a bit longer than they would normally on campus, but also the parent's been there. And I think in the big picture, that's been hopeful.
That's a positive outcome. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Gabby, did you have anything since you're still with us and you're a high school senior?
I personally haven't had any meetings, but I remember at the beginning, some of my classmates, they received some emails about possibly meeting. And I think it is a good opportunity. And I think if you're still doing that, Ms. Ferris, then we could put it on like the senior Google Classroom, because I think maybe I've heard about it, but I don't know how many of my peers have. So maybe that way we could get word out a little bit better. Like I can do that via Google Classroom to make sure that everyone else gets an opportunity to.
It's a great idea. Yeah,
Thank you. Okay, we have, I'm going to bring it to public comment. We have two people. Angela?
Hi. I first wanted to start off just saying that the counselor support has been absolutely amazing. I can say from firsthand experience, the caring circle from Mrs. Fruden came at the absolute perfect time for my third grader. It was right after she had a crying fit, slammed doors, stomped away, and it was perfect. Goodness gracious. The middle school has been amazing too. I have a struggling student.
Take your time.
I'm a struggling student, and I've reached out to all the teachers and Mrs. Lawrence, and they've been really supportive. Okay. Oh, goodness gracious. I think the support services for students, I think one thing that would help would be for us working families and parents who may have an older sibling who might have to care for a younger sibling while they have to be in their own Google Meets. The schedules kind of differ when you're dealing with maybe an elementary student or a middle school or high school student, because most of the time the synchronous learning is done for the elementary school students by 12 o'clock, and then they are asynchronous after that. But the middle school and high school students then have to be in synchronous learning until 3 o'clock. And so when we have students who are taking care of younger siblings, just maybe some counseling support services to help them deal with that, and parents too, as us struggling to navigate and figure it out. I just want to say that I appreciate everything that everybody's doing, all of the teachers. It's a difficult time for all of us, and I think everybody's doing an amazing job. That's all.
Thank you so much. And you're doing an amazing job too. Okay, now I'm gonna cry. Jennifer? Braden.
Hi, so we're all in the same boat. We're all really doing this where we're all choked up and we're all like on the edge. We just want what's best for our kids. And so I'm right there too, just like on the edge, always just kind of thinking, what are we going to do to make this better? And so, first of all, I have to just say I have so much respect and thankfulness for our board members, the teachers and the administration, and for what they are really doing in this crazy time that just came upon us in a few short months, and how we're supposed to do this and make the best for our kids. And that is our utmost goal. So during these uncharted times, I'm just hoping that we can find some ideas that what will define us better as a community, you know, as a school district, and for our children, for our students, what's going to define us from the last pandemic. And given our current resources, like what can we do to implement better changes and better long-lasting effects from this, and how we're going to help them to not internalize this psychologically, these ideas and the threshold that they're going to be introduced to, and hopefully that we can implement even in curriculum or daily exercises, how they can express that on their own. Because I see this nationwide where there are other places across the country that maybe will have a goal in mind where they can actually exercise what their feelings are in just putting out an essay or a statement. How would you deal with this? How is it when your mom is your teacher? Like making an essay saying, even if all they say is that they don't like it, or what would be different, or what they knew from last year, or what they thought middle school was going to be like, if they could just express it in a forum where all of them would be integrating their same thoughts, it might just really give them a way to vent. And so I just am hoping that would help them expose their insecurities or things that they might not be telling us when we approach them with it, or even teachers approach them, that if it were just a forum where they could just say, this was an assignment, that we had to write an essay based on what the current culture is expecting of them to do during these times, might be helpful for them too. Just bird's eye view from a different perspective. That's what I'm. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Okay, bring it back to the board. Again, to all the counselors, thank you so much for this presentation and for all that you're doing to support everybody. We'll try to support you, of course, as much as we can. So thank you so much for that presentation. Before we move to the next item, board, we are 3 minutes before 10. So we have the Chromebook discussion. Solicitations of funds. This is just a update from the last report. And enrollment projections and future agenda. Do I have a motion to extend the meeting?
I move we extend the meeting for an extra 30 minutes.
Is anybody going to second?
Wow, where'd they go?
I'll second that. I'll second that.
Okay. We have a motion by Christy Dawson to extend the board meeting till 10:30, and second by Brian Swanson. Roll call, please.
Trustee Crandall,
Aye.
Trustee Dawson,
Aye.
Trustee Pat,
Aye.
Trustee Swanson,
Aye.
Trustee Walton,
No.
Student Advisory.
Aye.
Okay.
Debbie?
That passes 4-1. Yes, John?
Oh, go ahead. Keep going. It's fine. Thanks. Sorry.
What?
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. Okay, that passes 4-1, and we'll hopefully get out of here or end before 10:30. Okay, so Chrome.
Debbie, I'm
Yes.
sorry. Can I, before we move on, I just want to interject one thing while we still have all the counselors here too, just because it was just a thought and we don't have to discuss it at all, but because their ears are still here too. I had done a thing a week or two ago, the weeks all blur together with the community high school, and had participated in the career day thing. And I think it would be kind of neat if possible to create just a panel of people. I think, and just among the board members alone, we have a real wide variety of people in different career paths as our high school students are trying to figure out what they're going to do with their lives. That if any of the students ever wanted to talk, maybe we could create just a group of adults in the working world that might be willing to have discussions with any of the students at any time. So I just wanted to throw that out there, that I would be interested in being a part of that if you ever wanted to build something like that.
Thanks, Brian. That's a great idea. Okay, Chromebook fleet status. So last meeting, we had a discussion regarding the Chromebooks and the ones that are issued to students at the moment and staff, and the new fleet that we got in that are currently being, updated and ready for use and charging in the bank and all that stuff. And the discussion was the Chromebooks, the old Chromebooks should be replaced by the new ones. And so part of that discussion, as I promised, we would talk about it again. And going back to the meeting from May, so it's been a while. The real reason why we bought the Chromebooks when we did was because of the cost. And the cost was because of COVID and the pandemic, because the prices were skyrocketing and we wanted to get the purchase done before they were not available also. And so Mr. Mejia kind of took the initiative to get that going. So we purchased those. And the discussion here tonight is, well, I first want to also say that I got a little bit more background on this for the last couple weeks. And the tech team, as you've heard tonight, they do have what I call a help desk. And you can go online and you can request a tech assistance, and they keep track of that. Long story short, basically, as of that time, which was about, I guess about a week now, they had replaced 18-ish Chromebooks with the new ones. So they are using them, and they are replacing them as they need them. The discussion is, should we be replacing all of them because we have the new ones? And that's the discussion here. And I still feel that we should not be doing that. It's a waste of resources to take the Chromebooks that are working, focus on working, and replace them with new ones just because we have them. I don't think that that is a good use of the equipment. It will last us a lot longer if we just replace them as we need them. So that's kind of a summary. Before I go to the board, Mr. Mejia, did you want to add anything to that?
Just want to throw in there that we started working on replacing the Chromebooks before the thought of distance learning, as we knew that was eventually going to come up. We wanted to do it on our time rather than be caught stranded with Chromebooks that were no longer functional at an inopportune time. So the original idea was always to have an inflow of new Chromebooks coming in at an average between 400 and 500 per school year. And over the course of 2 or 3 years, we would have, or 4 years, we would have enough to have our new fleet ready without having to have done it all at once. The intention was never to purchase 2,000 Chromebooks and replace everything at once. The thing that then prompted that action was the fact that as we had negotiated the first batch of Chromebooks to be filtered into the school district, that's right when distance learning was happening. And again, like you mentioned, the prices on Chromebooks were skyrocketing. Because we had already entered into negotiations with Dell prior to that, we were able to lock them in at the pre-COVID prices of $240 per unit. So that really was the driving force between, okay, let's get these at that price and save the district money in that endeavor. The current Chromebook fleets are continuing to perform as expected. That's not to say that we're not having any tech issues, as obviously we are having tech issues. The help ticket system does show us, though, what those help tickets seem to be centering around, and most of them seem to be centering around Wi-Fi connectivity. And so even just tonight's meeting, as we're able to see it, we've had some tech issues along the way, and none of us are necessarily working on Chromebooks. And I would venture to say that buying everybody here a new device would have resolved any of the tech issues we found tonight. I don't think that would be the case. It's all dependent on so many different variables. So I think the idea of saying that all the tech issues would just disappear if we replaced them with brand new Chromebooks, I don't feel that is entirely accurate. I feel that we would still have the issues with connectivity, as the Chromebooks are going to continue to experience those issues with connectivity, because it's just based on so many different factors. There's so many different layers that go into what causes issues with Wi-Fi. It could be a simple location. If you're using a hotspot, are you surrounded by trees? Do you live behind a hill? Things of that nature. How many what that network environment looks like. Are you having are you working at the kitchen table and the microphone and the microwave is across at the counter, and that signal is then interfering with the Wi-Fi signal? Or if you have your home Wi-Fi, are you running simultaneous meetings and streaming HD video and having your Alexa playlist going, all while trying to do distance learning? So there's so many issues that I feel don't get resolved by simply saying, here's a brand new Chromebook. Those issues would still linger. What we're not seeing are catastrophic across the board issues with Chromebooks, the older models of they could no longer access certain websites, or they could no longer, if a teacher links out a YouTube video, YouTube is no longer supported on that version of Chrome OS. Those are the issues we are not seeing across the board. So I think that having the facts of what the data of the help tickets say really help us to appreciate that the vast majority of what we're dealing with is Wi-Fi connectivity issues.
Thank you. And also, just to clarify, way back before COVID in March and before, the intention, as you said, was to buy them periodically. It was for standardized testing, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, but now we have this we're dealing with. So we are where we're at. Okay, so board, this is just information discussion items, so I'll go to you if you have any additional questions, comments. Christy?
I appreciate hearing the opinions that I've heard thus far, and I'd love to hear what the other board members are thinking.
Okay. Brian? John Path?
Well, first, no one ever said that all tech issues are because of the Chromebooks. Not once, not ever, not today, not last week. So let's not pretend that things are being put out that way. That's not the case. And no one said put them out in the field without actually putting them into our library. We didn't say that. I didn't say that. So when I hear that back at me,
John,
yeah.
that is not directed to you, so I'm sorry. I think
That's
that
okay.
we should keep it
So
this
let's
as a general
continue.
discussion and not individual.
We are continuing the discussion. Ani said she spent $192,000 on textbooks. They are not sitting in classrooms waiting for children to come back. They're out there being used. I certainly hope they're out there being used, but that's also what we heard. That's why we don't have a complaint and why we haven't had a complaint in 8 years on the board, because we put them out. What we need is a plan. Now, if we get to October 20 and we're back distance learning, continuing to be distance learning, then taking what is the best possible opportunity for education, which would be, in fact, to use better devices where people want them, we should be looking forward to that. It's not a plan that says everything has to be recalled. It is a plan that says we should be looking at it. We should be planning on replacing, and we should be offering to replace with better devices. So there are standards out there, 802.11n, 802.11g, 802.11a, b. These are probably 802.11n. I have a device. You know what? My device, the thing that cut out on me 3 times tonight before I went to my iPhone, is a 7-year-old iPad. It almost certainly is a failure of the iPad at this point, and it works most of the time, but every now and again it just stops. How do I know when that's going to happen? You know what? I don't. But I do know that it's a slightly older standard. It kicks in, slightly older, MIMO. It kicks in and off on its own. It's fine for most of what I do, which is, sort of basic reading. But eventually, if I'm going to try and continue to use it, I actually need to update. And that's really where we are. We should be working forward to saying, look, what's the best possible opportunity for education? We wouldn't withhold books, and we shouldn't withhold the tech if it's there. We don't have to try and do 600 at once. That's not a plan. But a plan saying, hey, we're going to have these categorized. We're going to have them in the library, and ready to move forward. And then be able to offer them and pull stuff in. We know that some of it's out there and it's a little bit older. We got letters today saying, well, I'm worried about them being damaged. Yeah, that's true for everything we have, of course. At the same time, we don't stop using the tool. It is a tool. And we should be using the best possible tools to provide the best possible education for our students that we can. And a better tool, slow and steady, bring them out. It's a better tool. So.
Okay, thank you. Brian?
I'm wondering with the Chromebooks that we have, as the update issue begins to impact more and more of them, are we now looking at security issues, and is that going to become a thing? It seems like it would be. So that's my question for Mr. Mejia. My primary concern right now, I guess, would be an answer to that.
Yes, eventually we will start having issues with security, as they are no longer receiving updates from Google. What we do know is that Meet and Zoom have end-to-end encryption. So those part of security are currently being managed by their servers as a encrypted protocol. So those are still receiving those safety features and protocols.
Okay, but we're using, the students are using more than just Meet and Zoom on these Chromebooks that are no longer, some of the ones that already may have security issues, right?
Yes, eventually, yes, they will stop receiving, or they will start becoming susceptible.
Do we know do we have some that are already susceptible, that are already potentially compromised from a security standpoint? beyond Google Meet and Zoom?
What we have right now are Chromebooks that are no longer receiving Chrome OS updates from Google, which means that they are not operating on the latest protocol for different websites. Typically, if something is no longer secure, you will get a message on your device before you proceed to a web page. So right now, there's nothing to indicate that those Chromebooks that are no longer receiving updates from Chrome OS are not safe.
Okay, all right. So, but potentially, if somebody goes to a website, they would get a warning. Although we're relying upon maybe a first grader to heed the warning that comes up on the screen of their Chromebook, right? I mean, I don't know exactly what the answer is. I wanted to kind of poke it at that. I also want to add a comment that I understand that the new books that we got are out there, and they should be out there, but there's a difference between, you know, the material that's in the book. It's like if it's a year old or 2 years old or 3 years old, obviously, I mean, you want to start to update those books. That's hard data, but the information that our students are accessing on the internet, it's different. It's like that it's not printed onto the Chromebook and lives there forever. The students are accessing hopefully current information online. So there is a difference between a Chromebook and the information that is being accessed via a Chromebook and an actual book. So I'll leave it at there for the moment, at least.
Okay. John Walton? Have anything to add?
No.
No? Okay.
No.
Oh, okay. We're gonna run out of time, so I'm gonna go to public comment. Zhang Kim.
Hi, thank you so much. And I know it's late. Just briefly, this has come up with our son who is in the middle school. And if it's possible to re-image our own Chromebook that we purchase as a family, I would like to know if that's possible. Because our son hates the current PGUSD Chromebook. He says that it's really slow, the keyboard is awful. He doesn't like the way that the mouse moves. So there's various issues. And if we can provide a higher quality Chromebook by ourselves and have the district re-image it as any corporation would do, and some districts are already doing, I would appreciate knowing. Thank you.
Have you filled out the tech support request online? I would suggest that you do that.
Yes, I did, and I just need to get back to Mr. Fong. I believe he contacted me. Thank you.
Great. Okay, thank you. Elliot Hazen.
Yes, thank you. Just really quickly, I mean, I think calling tech an investment, I don't think the tech bond was meant to provide an investment to the school monetarily. I think it was to provide the latest tech to the students to maximize our ability to use it. I mean, once you buy these things, they unfortunately have a period and sometimes intentional obsolescence planned in. So getting, I think, the best tech in the hand of the students to minimize these tech issues and in the hands of the teachers when possible would be best to help distance learning.
Thank you. Okay, this is an information discussion only. Just briefly coming back to the board, unless there's any additional comments or requests to bring this back at any other time, we'll move on to the next item.
President Crandall.
Yes, Mr. Binder.
Hi, good evening. Just a real quick point I'd like to follow up with regarding security on these in terms of how we manage them primarily. The security levels or layers that we provide these Chromebooks and is through our central Google admin administrative panel. And that has not at all wavered with regards to our ability to manage the security on these G3 and G4 Chromebooks. These are the older fleet models. And so there's no indication that security is being compromised at all through the device management protocols within Google Admin. They still receive all the settings adjustments that any newer devices would be receiving through that system. And lastly, I'll just mention that there is a plan, actually. The plan to swap out or exchange failing Chromebooks started on day one when we initiated the checkout system. We've actually swapped out quite a few already. And where we actually identify G3s that are either broken or not performing as expected, we swap it out for the G4, which is the second kind of batch of Chromebooks that we purchased that comprise the original fleet. So as Jonathan and I have discussed, along with the tech team and even in committee forum, we have already committed to doing an across-the-board exchange if something catastrophic was presented to us, whereby we started seeing failing performance on these devices. We would jump immediately into action to replace the entire 630 plus that are now out there with the new models. There's no question about that. So we do have a plan. It is in place. It is, I believe, strategic, and it is being carried out effectively right now.
Thank you. Okay. Board, if there's no other items on this, I'm going to move on. I'm just pausing for a minute.
I think it would be great for the board members who haven't, I haven't yet, but I'm asking now to, if just yesterday, Ralph was kind enough to very quickly get me a copy of a couple of history books that people had some question about. I would like to get my hands on one of the older Chromebook models for a few days too. Sadly, I do have all the time in the world right now, so I can monkey around with that, and I would like to get some firsthand experience with one of those little buggers, if you don't mind.
Will do.
Right. Thank you.
Fill out a tech request. No.
Sorry, that was a loud laugh, wasn't it?
It's 10:20. I gotta make it. Okay. Thank you all for that discussion.
You have a hand up.
Yeah, well, we pretty much closed public comment. But since it was just brought up, Jennifer McNary, you can go ahead and speak on this item.
Hi, actually, this is Chris McNary. This is Jennifer's husband. So I just want to make a quick comment on what was just said about the rollout plan. And I think the concern that I would have is that it just doesn't seem like a proactive approach. It seems like waiting or anticipating failure of the laptops and then responding. And I do understand you have to work with the resources you have, but I think to the point that was made earlier, a proactive plan to eventually replace machines that are either end of life or nearing end of life will help with getting ahead of any issues that students may have so that they can have the best experience. That's all I had. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. I hate to rush things, but it's my job to keep this meeting running efficiently. So solicitation of funds report 2019-20. This is a report that there was a policy passed where all of the fundraisers that are happening on behalf of students of Pacific Grove Unified School District are to provide a report, basically, and of what the funds that they raised, how much they raised, what it was for, and what the item was, and what they did to raise that money. This is just additional information from what we received before. So, board, if there's any questions or comments, I'm gonna just leave it open for a minute. Okay. Song, did you want to add anything to that?
No, we're good.
Okay, thank you. Any public comment on this item? Okay, bring it back. Thank you for providing this song, and it's online if anybody is interested in it. It's very detailed about from each school, each organization, how much they raised. So it's pretty interesting actually if you want to look at it. Thank you. Okay.
President Crandall, just want to thank Ms. Ackerman, Mandy, to, you know, she does all the work, compile this.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Mandy. You do a lot of work behind the scenes. Okay, review of district enrollment projections for day 6 of school, 2020-21. This is also a update from our last meeting. Song, did you have anything you want to touch on that?
Day 6 is just is a tradition to share with the public and the board. First day and 6th day, and obviously the numbers fluctuates. You know, depends on what day when we bring the numbers. But overall, there's always certainly there's a downturn comparing to last year for a number of reasons. Number one, we just in one school alone we have 16 students being homeschooled. So we do not know how many each school. We just didn't go through the exercise. But you know, by and large, it's just because of many factors. But at least we just reporting this, you know, so that we can really have an idea where we stand. The next reporting period, we'll pick a day in September, and I put down here September 16th. It could be, excuse me, it could be any day, but we'll be tracking that. I guess it's no way to look at it. It's really not, to say the least, it's not a traditional way of looking at the really whether the enrollment is accurate or not. It's just a big difference than before.
Okay. And this is always ongoing, changing every year, even without the COVID going on. So thanks for the update. Board, any questions regarding this? Christy?
The only thing that I noted was that there seems to be discrepancy with certain numbers within a given class, but what I was assuming was that was based on kids with higher needs or special ed kids that are counted in that. I just want to make sure that there's a fairness within that.
That's absolutely correct, Trustee Dawson. For example, Forest Grove, Director Davies and Principal Rogerman had talked about that. We have what we call push-ins. We have STC kids. They are the classes. Some of those actually maybe as high as Robert Down, if not maybe 1 or 2 kids more. So yes.
Okay. Well, I wanted to clarify that because when the public sees these numbers, it's nice for them to know that there are so many educational needs and the diversity within that those numbers, that's part of the reason some numbers are lower or higher depending on those. Thanks for telling me, Song. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Christy. John Path?
No, I had my questions answered earlier. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Brian?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, John Walton?
No questions.
Okay, thank you. A public comment on this item. Go ahead and raise your hand. Okay, seeing none right away. We'll bring it back. Thank you, Song, for the information again. So you said that you're going to be doing this on the 16th again. Does that mean that you're going to report to us on the 16th? No, that's after our meeting. No, that's when you're going to be taking the next tally.
Right. The next tally is 16. We may bring it back in the first meeting in October.
Okay,
so
perfect.
We can make the September 17th meeting. We'll do it the next meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, future agenda items. Board, I don't think I heard anything new, but Dr. Porras, did you hear anything new? Board, any new items that you would like to talk about?
Well, if we had time, I would say we should draft a resolution on the board position on cannabis and PG. I don't think we have time, correct?
Well,
that meeting's 16th?
Oh, well, that's a second read. They have a whole timeline of different things that need to be done.
Mhm.
So.
We wish
Dr.
to draft a resolution.
Okay. Or any objection to the rest of the board? I mean, I agree with that. No? Okay, great. Anything else anybody would like to add?
The second item, and I think I have to address this to Dr. Porras, is Ms. Seidberg early on said, you know, if I can get my special ed child, with some peers, our life and his life will be a lot better. And that requires a special exemption. My understanding early on, Ralph, was Dr. Moreno was not interested in giving any exemptions. However, is that something we need to be looking into? I don't think that's actually, I don't think you need anything from us on that. I don't think that's a future agenda item, but I guess I would like to know the answer.
Maybe at the next update?
Yeah. I'll look into it.
Is that okay, John?
Yeah, that's fine. It can be written, that's fine.
Okay. Okay. Anything from the public for future agenda items? Okay. John Kemp?
Thank you. I would love to hear more about the cannabis discussion at the next meeting. And really want to thank Madam President Crandall and Dr. Porras and other parents who spoke up about the cannabis concerns related to our youth. There's more information that I emailed today, and if anyone is interested, please do feel free to contact me directly.
Yes, thank you for that email too.
Can you forward that on, President Crandall, too? I don't think I saw.
Oh, really? Okay, sure. Yes, I will do that.
Okay.
So for that item, Dr. Porras, do we need to talk about when we want to have that now? I know because John was saying about the timeline.
Yeah, I think the sooner the better. I'm not sure where we're going to get the language for the resolution just yet. We'll need to get some samples and start kind of, I'm putting that together. I'm just not sure exactly yet. So I'll look for that and try to see if staff can put together a sample resolution that can be added to at the 17th.
Okay, so that we'll shoot for that.
Yeah, I don't think that delaying it past the second reading is going to be an issue.
Okay. Okay. All right, then everybody, right on the dot, 10:30. Thank you all.
President Crandall, you did it.
Yeah, with a little pushiness. Thank you all for attending. We still have like 45 people, so thank you for sticking with us. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you. I keep forgetting the date. Is it the
17th?
17th. Okay, we'll see you then, if not before. Take care. Meeting is adjourned.